Very good. All right. Hello. Sorry that I'm still setting up. So I don't remember which bipod I use for. Oh, that's what I think this is what I do. All right. So today I'm listening to the Jack Smith testimony. For those new to me, I've been following Jan 6 since um, April 2020. And I never thought we'd get this kind of presentation. I was surprised as hell to get the private one, the private footage. So this is awesome. So I'm gonna have. There's my painting pants, fancy painting pants. I have my tripod set up weird. So let's see if I can sit down and get this set up. I don't know if YouTube's gonna let me have this play while I'm recording, or if I'm gonna have to listen to it. Yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to it on my phone. All this. All right, they're swearing them in, and I have to grab my cup of water. Be right back. Okay, real quick. Okay, Jim Jordan's already saying something fucking dumb. So let's just plug in on my phone. That'll be on the background. It may sound a little weird. Um, questions, comments, complaints, put them in. Feel free. If I can feel them, I will. I'm happy to be doing a lot of speculation. It's really for me. I'm normally asleep at this time, so I got up specifically to do this.
Place and how long it lasted. It patterned an individual's life. And who the speaker talked to before big quotes, who he talked to after big quotes, where he calls his colleagues, he calls his family. And to add insult to injury, they go to the judge with the subpoena for a gag order on the carrier. AT&T, don't tell your customer, the Speaker of the House, that you just gave his phone calls to Jack Smith and Joe
They're
Biden.
doing that shit
Here's the kicker.
again
They
with
say to
that
the
shit.
court, we need this gag order because he's a flight risk. Someone might tamper with witnesses or with evidence. Are you kidding me? The Speaker of the House is going to run? They got my phone records for 2.5 years. Even the Democrats said this was
No, they
wrong.
didn't. They're all
Of course, we shouldn't be
butthurt.
surprised. Democrats have been going after President Trump for 10 years, for a decade. The country should never, ever forget what they did. The next few hours, we're going to hear a lot of yelling and screaming, I assume, from the other side. But we should never forget what took place, what they did to the guy we, the people, elected president twice. It all started in 2016 when they spied on his campaign.
Oh, good,
The
Russia.
campaign hired the law firm Perkins-Coie, who hired the public relations firm Fusion DPS, who hired a foreigner, Christopher Steele, to put together the fake dossier. Bunch of garbage in that document, but that was used by Jim Comey's FBI. We all know Jim Comey. He was the guy who just last year was strolling along the beach when the good Lord had the waves wash up on shore, seashells in the formation of 8647. That guy took that dossier to the FISA court, lied to the court, and then spied on the other party's campaign. This, of course, led to the Mueller investigation. 2.5 years, 19 lawyers, 40 agents, $30 million to find nothing. No conspiracy, no coordination.
Liar, liar, pantaloons on
Then
fire.
it was impeachment 1, anonymous whistleblower. We couldn't even know who was bringing the charge against the guy they were trying to take it, the guy we elected, were they trying to kick out of office. We couldn't know. Secret hearings in the bunker, in the basement of the Capitol. Again, nothing. Then it was impeachment too. No secret hearings here because they didn't have any hearings. It was a snap impeachment, and the Senate trial actually took place after President Trump wasn't in office. Then, of course, it was Alvin Bragg, who said before he got elected district attorney that there was no case here. Then he gets elected and changes his mind when the left starts pressuring him to go after President Trump. He hires Michael Colangelo, former Democrat National Committee consultant, and the number 3 guy at the Department of Justice. Then, of course, it's Bonnie and Nathan, Bonnie Willis and Nathan Wade and Fulton County,
All right,
Georgia.
let's see. Before
We actually deposed Mr. Wade, one of the most interesting depositions I've sat through. We said to him, you billed taxpayers in Georgia thousands of dollars for meetings in D.C. with the January 6th committee and with the Biden administration. And we asked him some questions. Who'd you talk to, Mr. Wade? He couldn't remember. We said, where'd you meet? Meet the Capitol? Did you meet White House? Where'd you meet? Couldn't remember that either.
I wonder if that meeting is
Except for
public.
these meetings in person, on the phone. Did you have a Zoom
All
meeting?
right.
Couldn't remember.
Oh,
Couldn't remember. Finally just asked him, did you really come to D.C. and meet people? He said, oh yeah, I came. And I billed the taxpayers. I know I came. There's no idea who he talked to or what he did. And then there was the raid on President Trump's home, where they searched Barron's room and the First Lady's closet. In our deposition with Stephen D'Antuono, head of the FBI Washington field office, he told us none of the normal process, none of the normal protocol was followed in the investigation.
that is correct.
He said, first of all, the case
They
was run out of D.C.
gave him special treatment.
Normally you run it out of the Miami field office. No, we're going to run out of D.C. He said he recommended, and the people in the FBI at the time in the Washington field office recommended they give the president notice before they do the search, or at least when they got there, before they start the search, call the president's lawyers, ask them to come there and meet them and conduct the search together. Again, the answer from Maine Justice was no. Which brings us back to Mr. Smith. On November 18th, 2022, 3 days after President Trump announces he's running for president, Attorney General Garland names Jack Smith special counsel. One of the first things Mr. Smith does is put on his team the very people responsible for the raid on President Trump's home. The very people. And then Jack Smith also puts on his team the people responsible for getting the phone records of dozens of members of Congress. People like Thomas Wyndham, who, when we deposed him, took the fifth 71 times. We've actually referred him to the Justice Department for obstructing our investigation. Jack Smith then gets a gag order in his investigation on President Trump from Judge Chutkan without filing a single affidavit with the court from a witness or a potential witness that they felt threatened by statements.
Hard to need a statement when you have
Jack Smith
Twitter.
restricts the speech of the former president while he's a candidate for president. Thank goodness Mr. Smith was slapped down on appeal and the order was changed. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, the Washington Post editorial page, Jack Smith would have blown a hole in the First Amendment. I just want to read 2 sentences from this.
So you're citing an
Mr.
editorial.
Smith seemed unconcerned about interfering in the democratic process by seeking to muzzle a candidate for high office. 3 appellate judges, all nominated by Democrat presidents, ruled that Mr. Smith's proposed gag order infringed on President Trump's First Amendment rights. And of course they did. And this wasn't the only time Mr. Smith lost in court. The classified documents case in Miami, Judge Cannon held that Mr. Smith was not permitted to be special counsel. Jack Smith was never properly appointed. In fact, he couldn't be properly appointed because he was never confirmed by the Senate for any position in the executive branch as the law requires. Here's what Judge Cannon stated. quote, the special counsel's position effectively usurps that important legislative authority, transferring it to a head of department, and in the process threatening the structural liberty inherent in the separation of powers. And of course, July 1st, 2024.
Never mind, Judge Cannon was
States
appointed by
Supreme Court
Trump,
ruled
right?
That President Trump had immunity for actions taken in his official capacity as the president.
Ruled by 3 judges
1
Trump
month later,
appointed. Those 3 should have
after
recused
this decision by the
themselves.
Supreme Court, Jack Smith files a superseding indictment on August 27, 2024. But Mr. Smith doesn't stop there.
Why not?
He does something unprecedented. On October 2nd, he files a motion with the court before President Trump's defense counsel has even responded to the indictment. Everyone knows the normal process is the government indicts, the defense responds with some motions, and then the government responds to the defense. But Mr. Smith,
Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that,
that
right, Jim Jordan?
165 pages, almost 4 times.
Remind us
the
that you're
court
not a
limit.
lawyer, right?
Even liberal Judge Chutkan, who's given Jack Smith everything he's asked for in the
No,
course of this
she did
investigation,
not,
even she
a-hole.
called it atypical and irregular. Now, why would Jack Smith do that? Why would he abandon proper procedure?
All right, cool. Fix the antlers on that.
Why would he do that? Because he's running out of time. There's an election around the corner. It's coming in 33 days. And he's got to get President Trump. He's got to stop President Trump from running, tie him up in court. He's got to get to trial, or at a minimum, insert an 165-page political document into the presidential campaign. It was always about politics. Good news is the American people saw through it. They saw through it. For so long, the left has controlled so much of this country.
All right, so I'm going to use this. Okay, so let's see.
Academia, Hollywood, certainly the Democrat Party, and I think all too much the federal bureaucracy. But the left doesn't control we the people. And in spite of the left, the weaponization efforts of Jim Comey, Alvin Bragg, Bonnie
Jim
Willis,
Comey, he's
Jack
no
Smith,
friend of the left.
we the people saw through it all. We elected President Trump.
Jim Comey was appointed by Trump
Before turning
or
to the
Bush.
ranking member for his opening statement, I would just ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the Washington Post editorial. Jack Smith would have blown a hole in the First Amendment. With that, I yield to the gentleman from Maryland.
Well, thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by recognizing the presence of 4 American heroes here today, 4 of the hundreds of officers who defended us on January 6, 2021, Michael Fanone, Aquilino Canel, Daniel Hodges, and Harry Dunn. And I thank them for being here today. Mr. Smith, thank you for appearing before the American people. I'm glad that the committee has finally granted you
Skeet
the same
Pardell,
chance to report your findings
Barack
to the
Obama
American people
appointed
that
him.
every other special counsel investigating an American president
Okay, so
has had.
we got this
The
dude,
chairman started by saying it's all
and I'm
about
going to pay him the same
politics.
method
Well,
as
maybe for them,
this
but
dude.
For us, it's all about the rule of law. And who's going to stand by the rule of law?
So
and
right
who's
now
going to
we're going
oppose
to
it?
take
And Mr. Smith,
this
you're one of
and start
America's
grubbing it
great
up.
prosecutors. For nearly 3 decades, you worked for justice under both Republicans and Democrats. The Manhattan DA office, where you prosecuted sex crimes and domestic violence cases. The Eastern District of New York, where you prosecuted murderers, rapists, gangbangers, and other violent criminals. Leading the public integrity section. At the Department of Justice, you brought prosecutions against corrupt public officials across the political spectrum. When you went to The Hague as chief prosecutor in the Kosovo trial, you prosecuted war crimes and crimes against humanity perpetrated against thousands of innocent victims. While others may have devoted their lives to corrupt self-enrichment, you have devoted your life to the rule of law and to public service. You've never been prosecuted for anything. You've never been convicted of anything. As far as I can tell, you've never even been the subject of a disciplinary proceeding over the course of your multi-decade career. But Donald Trump says you're a criminal and you belong in prison. He says you belong in prison, not because you did anything wrong, but because you did everything right. pursued the
Let's
facts,
see.
you followed the law, you stuck with extreme caution to every rule of professional responsibility. You had the audacity to do your job.
Sponge this up.
Everybody here knows what you did wrong in Donald Trump's eyes and why he says you belong in prison. You found, and I quote from your sworn testimony before the committee, you found proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results of the 2020 election and to prevent the lawful transfer of power. When asked whether you believe the evidence was enough to obtain a criminal conviction against Donald Trump at trial, you had a one-word answer: yes. When asked if Donald Trump was responsible for the violence that took place at the Capitol on January 6th, you said, our view of the evidence was that he caused it and that he exploited it and that it was foreseeable to him. You found that Trump knew he had lost the election. How? Well, his own Attorney General, William Barr, repeatedly told him so and described all of Trump's theories as BS. Trump's top campaign advisors told him he lost the election. Vice President Pence told him he lost the election. More than 60 federal, state, and court decisions, including 8 rendered by judges he appointed to the bench, rejected every outlandish election fraud and corruption claim that he made. Trump himself even privately acknowledged it, gesturing to Joe Biden on TV and saying, quote, "Can you believe I lost to that effing guy?" He knew he lost, but he threw everything into his big lie, which some people, even in this room to this day, will stand by and swear by. Well, when the big lie wasn't enough to convince officials like Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, a Republican, to commit election fraud and just fine Trump 11,780 votes, when it wasn't enough to convince Trump's DOJ to, quote, just call the election corrupt and leave the rest to me and the House Republicans, when it wasn't enough to force Vice President Mike Pence to announce and then exercise lawless powers to reject electoral college votes and use counterfeit slates to anoint Trump the winner, that's when Trump incited mass violence on January 6th. While more than 140 officers were being brutally assaulted by Trump's mob, while rioters beat them with flagpoles and sprayed them with chemical agents and crushed them in doorways, and while they chanted, "Hang Mike Pence," and chased the vice president out of the Capitol, Trump and his team worked the phones, calling not the National Guard, which was under the direct unilateral control of Donald Trump, but calling members of Congress, urging them to delay certification and to nullify the election results. Special Counsel Smith, you pursued the facts. You followed every applicable law, ethics rule, and DOJ regulation.
All right, cool.
Your decisions were reviewed by the Public Integrity Section. You acted based solely on the facts, the opposite of Donald Trump, who reported to take over the Department of Justice. He's in charge of the whole thing under his unitary executive theory, and he acts openly, purely based on political vendetta and motives of personal revenge, and he doesn't deny it. My colleagues have complained about the special counsel's review of toll records, which are phone records like a phone bill, showing only the timing and duration of calls and containing no content, no substance whatsoever from the calls. But those records were lawfully subpoenaed because Donald Trump made those members of Congress relevant to the investigation. Who chose to call them to advance his criminal scheme. As you testified, Mr. Smith, if Donald Trump had chosen to call a number of Democratic senators, we would have gotten toll records for them too. I trust our colleagues get the point because America certainly gets the point. There's much Mr. Smith still can't talk about, though we know he badly wants to. His investigation developed what he calls powerful evidence that Trump stole documents containing our country's most sensitive secrets, hoarded them in the ballrooms and the bathrooms of his well-trafficked Mar-a-Lago social club. He showed them off to visitors.
Yeah,
and then he
look at that.
instructed a federal investigation by instructing his attorney to pluck out anything really bad before turning materials over to the FBI and having his staff delete incriminating security tape footage. But today we're not going to hear a lot about that because you are gagged by an absurd judicial order rendered faithfully by Trump's most servile and sycophantic appointee to the federal Judge Eileen Cannon. This order not only blocks release of Volume 2 of your report, which is unprecedented, about the classified document scam, it also gags you from discussing the report or its contents with us, with America. So we don't know what's in it, but it must be pretty devastating because Donald Trump is desperate to keep Mr. Smith or any other DOJ official for all time from ever releasing it to Congress and to the American people. Now, Mr. Smith, if any of our colleagues foolishly choose to attack you and vilify you today, and I know that's not going to happen from some serious prosecutors over there, like Mr. Knott and Mr. Schmidt, who understand what federal prosecutors do and what the rule of law means. But if anybody decides to attack you personally, they will only be revealing their own ignorance of what prosecutors do and their own indifference to what the rule of law requires.
Jim Jordan, shut the fuck up.
They will only be stroking the wounded ego of a lawless, twice impeached, convicted felon president who not only unleashed a mob against Congress and his own vice president, but is now pardoned and released into our communities hundreds of extremists, insurrectionists, and
they're in Minnesota,
who have proceeded to commit dozens more crimes against the American people since they were pardoned. Mr. Smith, I understand you are a long-distance marathon runner. I read that you're a triathlete who's done more than 100 triathlons, 9 Ironman competitions. You are in the fight for justice and the rule of law for the long distance, for the long haul, and I thank you for that. And we should all try to follow your example. America looks forward to your testimony today. I yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back without objection. All of their opening statements will be included in the record. We will now introduce today's witness. Mr. Jack Smith was appointed as special counsel on November 18th, 2022. He served until January 7th, 2025. We welcome our witness today. We'll begin by swearing you in. Would you please rise and raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct?
We are going to try and nail this guy on something.
I do. Let the record reflect that the witness
He
has
has
answered
more
in the affirmative. Thank you.
experience than
Seated.
all of those
Please note
guys
that
on the
your testimony will be
Republican
entered into
side.
the record in its entirety. Accordingly, we ask you to summarize your testimony. Mr. Smith, you may begin.
Chairman Jordan, Ranking Member Raskin, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to discuss my work as special counsel.
All right, so there it is. This
I love
first
my country
sponge.
and believe deeply in the core principles on which it was founded. For nearly 3 decades, I've served as a career prosecutor,
I'm all right with
both
that.
Republican and Democratic administrations. I've handled cases ranging from domestic assault and gang violence to public corruption and election crimes across the United States, and I've prosecuted war crimes overseas. I am not a politician, and I have no partisan loyalties. My career has been dedicated to serving our country by upholding the rule of law. Throughout my public service, my approach has always been the same.
All
Follow the
right,
facts and
let's
the law without
get
fear
a different
or favor.
sponge
Experienced
and
prosecutors
go a
know
little lighter.
that specific case outcomes are beyond our control. Our responsibility is to do the right thing
Yeah, that's
the
all
right way.
right.
for the right reasons. These principles have guided me through my career, including as special counsel. I'm proud of the work my team did, and I appreciate the opportunity to appear here today to correct false and misleading narratives about our work.
Translation, fuck you, Jordan.
During my tenure as special counsel, we followed Justice Department policies. We observed legal requirements and took actions based on the facts and the law. I made my decisions without regard to President Trump's political association, activities, beliefs, or candidacy in the 2024 election. President Trump was charged, and the evidence established that he willfully broke the law.
Okay, so
The very
a
laws
sponge.
took an oath to uphold.
New sponge.
Grand juries in 2 separate districts reached this conclusion based on his actions, as alleged in the indictments they returned. To accept his defeat in the 2020 election, President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results
Get the
and
sponge a
prevent the
little wet.
lawful transfer of power. After leaving office in January of 21, President Trump illegally
Forceps
kept
for handle.
classified documents at his Mar-a-Lago social club and repeatedly tried to obstruct justice to conceal his continued retention of those documents. Highly sensitive national security information was held in a ballroom and a bathroom. As I testify before the committee today, I want to be clear. I stand by my decisions as special counsel, including the decision to bring charges against President Trump. Our investigation developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in criminal activity. If asked whether to prosecute a former president based on the same facts today, I would do so regardless of whether that president was a Democrat or a Republican. No one should be above the law in this country, and the law required that he be held to account, so that is what I did. To have done otherwise on the facts of these cases would have been to shirk my duties as a prosecutor and as a public servant, of which I had no intention of doing. I remain grateful for the counsel, judgment, and advice of my team. President Trump has sought to seek revenge against career prosecutors, FBI agents, and support staff simply for having worked on these cases. To vilify and seek retribution against these people is wrong. Those dedicated public servants are the best of us. It has been a privilege to serve with them. After nearly 30 years of public service, including in international settings, I have seen how the rule of law can erode. My fear is that we have seen the rule of law function in our country for so long that many of us have come to take it for granted. The rule of law is not self-executing. It depends on our collective commitment to apply it.
If that were true, he wouldn't be in
Requires
office right
dedicated
now.
service on behalf of others, especially when that service is difficult and comes with costs.
All right, so
Our willingness to pay those costs
we're
is
gonna
what
get
tests and
some
defines our
brown
commitment to the rule of law
bits in there.
and to this wonderful country. Thank you.
Gentlemen, we will now proceed under the 5-minute rule. We have votes coming in any minute now, but I think we'll have time for 3 or 4 members to get their 5-minute question in before the committee will take a recess to go vote. They are not going to close the vote before we get there. I know that much. So we'll start with the gentleman from California, recognized for 5 minutes.
Good morning, Mr. Smith. When Attorney General Garland appointed you, he cited the particularly sensitive matters at issue and extraordinary circumstances as the reason for appointing a special counsel. What did you take that to mean?
What I understood that to
What are they
mean
voting
is
on?
I was to conduct an independent investigation and come to my own conclusions about whether the facts and the law supported prosecution.
But clearly he was alluding to the fact that we had an investigation into a leading candidate for president. That was part of the extraordinary circumstances. Would you agree?
I will rely on his public statements about that. I understood my role as special counsel was governed by the regulations, which required me to make an independent decision on my
So
own.
certainly you would agree it was important to approach the investigation with humility and restraint. Is that fair?
Yes, and that's what I sought to do. I sought to.
And you thought you possessed those qualities. In fact, you testified at your deposition, quote, I thought I was the right person for the job. Of course, some disagreed. Constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley, for example, has said, quote, Jack Smith has a reputation for stretching criminal statutes beyond the breaking point.
All right, so I'm gonna add
I
a little.
assume you disagree with that statement by Professor Turley.
I do disagree with that statement.
I'm gonna add a
I think
little
my
dark
career speaks
shade
for itself.
instead
I
of
have-
But
black.
that statement was also, and I'm sorry to have to interrupt, I just have a short amount of time. That statement was also echoed by the United States Supreme Court in a unanimous opinion, McDonald versus the United States. where the court overturned convictions that you had pursued against a former governor, criticizing your boundless interpretation of the federal criminal statute at issue. That opinion was joined by Justices Ginsburg, Breyer, Sotomayor, and Kagan. So do you also disagree with that statement by those justices?
I have conducted my career in a nonpartisan fashion. That particular case, the legal position that the department took, that wasn't my personal position. That was the position of the department.
I see. So, Mr.
Just
Smith, I've
following
had the
orders.
opportunity during my time in this committee to review the work of two special counsels, John Durham, appointed during the Trump administration, and Robert Hur during the Biden administration. And in both cases, they seem to exhibit that humility and restraint that we talked about. But in reviewing in detail the way you conducted this investigation, I see a very different mode of operation. One that sought maximum litigation advantage at every turn, one that repeatedly circumvented constitutional limitations to the point that you had to be reined in again and again throughout the process. For example, shortly after you became special counsel, you issued a subpoena for the phone records of the Speaker of the House of Representatives over a 2-month period, along with for other senators and representatives, even though the public integrity section at DOJ cited litigation risk to doing this. What was that litigation risk?
With respect to the toll record subpoenas that we issued, they were approved by the public integrity section. The public integrity section, in approving those subpoenas, noted the fact that the subpoenas were for records for people who were not targets of our investigation.
But they said there was a litigation risk and you moved forward with it anyway. And not only that, but you also sought orders from judges, making it so those who were having their records seized would not know about it. And you even didn't tell those judges that it was members of Congress whose records you were going after, in apparent contravention of a federal statute saying that a telephone provider for a Senate office shall not be barred from providing notice that the records had been requested. Now, if you sought to do that today, would you be able to get away with that, with asking the judges for a non-disclosure order without telling them these are members of Congress?
When we secured these toll record subpoenas, it was done consistent with department policy. You're correct in that that policy has since changed.
They changed the policy based upon the actions that you took. Similarly, you issued a gag order against President Trump.
Closing the barn door after the horse is out. Or it's
is that correct?
fucking Bondi's decision to close that loophole to make it look like, oh, look, he operated outside.
Order, found that it was justified. They narrowed the order, but they confirmed that the phenomenon...
They narrowed the order because it was overbroad. In addition to that, you sought an early trial date that the district court rejected. And when you presented your prosecution memo to Attorney General Garland, it's been reported that he was visibly unimpressed and expressed First Amendment concerns. So, Mr. Smith, looking at the record, I see that you were reversed and rebuked by the Department of Justice itself, by the Attorney General, by the Solicitor General, by multiple district court justices, judges, by the Court of Appeals, and by the U.S. Supreme Court itself. So my final question is, do you believe that you made any mistakes? Do you have any regrets as to how you conducted this investigation?
If I have any regret, it would be not expressing enough appreciation for my staff who work so hard in these investigations. We follow the facts and the law. These people who work for me sacrificed endlessly and have endured way too much for just doing their job. So if anything, I wish that I had thanked them.
Under the gentleman. No mistakes. There's that humility. Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Yeah, time the gentleman's right. The chair now recognizes the ranking member for 5
Well,
minutes.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the good gentleman from California certainly knows, because he was a student of mine, that lawyers go to court and sometimes they win motions and sometimes they lose motions, and there's no crime in any of that. And I'm just sorry that you had to be lectured about humility and restraint by a politician, because we might not be best poised to lecture you on those particular virtues. But let's go to the toll record, since that's been raised, Mr. Smith. First of all, Congress has allowed toll records to be subpoenaed. This committee has actually tried to limit it over the years, and the senators who are whining the most over on the Republican side in the Senate, they never went along with our determination to try to limit the government's ability to subpoena toll records. So it's perfectly lawful what you did. Explain, why did you want those toll records?
We wanted to conduct a thorough investigation of the matters that was assigned to me, including attempts to interfere with the lawful transfer of power. The conspiracy.
That's
that we
looking
were
pretty all
investigating,
right.
it was relevant.
Sorry
to
for the
get,
weird beam.
Toll records to understand the scope of that conspiracy, who they were seeking to coerce, who they were seeking to influence, who was seeking to help them.
And that's normal investigative practice, right?
In conducting a criminal investigation, securing non-content toll records, as you described, is a common practice in almost any complex conspiracy.
Okay, let's go to something else that I've been hearing over the last week by our colleagues as they've eagerly anticipated your arrival here. They've been saying that there's some kind of First Amendment defense that Donald Trump would have had to the crimes you indicted him for. Is there a valid First Amendment defense to defrauding the public? Is there a valid First Amendment defense to disrupting a federal proceeding? Is there a valid First Amendment defense to violating the voting rights of the people and cheating the public out of a fair election?
The First Amendment is something we took seriously in our investigation. But the First Amendment does not protect speech that facilitates a crime. Speech that is used to facilitate a crime, a fraud crime in particular, is not protected under the First Amendment. The Supreme Court precedent.
You had hundreds of Republicans go break the law and push that big
we
lie.
litigated before the district court, and the district court.
All right, he's pretty ratty. I should
as I just
tune
stated,
that back a
it is
little, I
not in
think,
fact
but it's,
protected.
I
The
like
case
it.
law is perfectly clear on this, right? All frauds are perpetrated by speech, right?
Yes.
All conspiracies are perpetrated by speech. So just because your criminal conduct is brigaded with speech doesn't somehow mean you've got a First Amendment defense against trying to overthrow the government. I mean, the people who attacked the police officers on January 6th were chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." I suppose that was political speech, or they were saying, "Stop the steal." Does that mean they've got a First Amendment defense to violent assault against the officers?
It does not.
William Barr, by the way, was somebody who was perfectly clear about that. Donald Trump's own attorney general said there's no freedom of speech that you have to engage in a conspiracy to overthrow an election, to commit crime. He was perfectly clear about that. Back in those days, in fact, lots of people on that side of the aisle, including my good friend, the chairman, denounced the violence that took place on January 6th. The cat's got their tongue these days. Chairman Jordan said, "What happened last week was terrible, it was tragic. It's as wrong can be," he said. Republicans,
He
we
got his
know
hand
all
caught in the
political
cookie jar.
violence is wrong. I asked my friend Chairman Jordan at a rules hearing, "Are you also not interested in what happened to us on January 6th? He said, "Of course, everyone's interested in holding people accountable who did wrong. The FBI is doing that. The Justice Department is doing that, appropriately so. What do you think about the attack on the Department of Justice and the special counsel for doing your jobs?"
I think the attack is unjustified. I think the people who worked with me as career public servants are people, they're part of the reason I've been a prosecutor for so long, is to work with people like that, not just the prosecutors in my office, but also the agents,
that's
FBI agents
rad.
who are heroes, who have served their country not only as agents, but also overseas. I think those attacks are unwarranted based on the facts, and I think that they have no basis in who we are as Americans, as a country. I don't see attacking people like that as anything appropriate.
Thank you. And Mr. Chairman, I yield back to you.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Smith, is Cassidy Hutchinson a liar? She was their star witness. January 6th committee, their star witness in one of those staged and choreographed hearings they paid the former president of ABC News to put together. She was, in fact, the only witness at this special prime time hearing, Tuesday, June 28th, 2022, 8 o'clock in the evening, and she told some stories. I mean, these were some stories. She talked about President lunged across the back seat, grabbed the steering wheel, tried to drive the car to the Capitol. And I just want to know, you think she was lying?
Chairman Jordan, my assessment of that particular issue is that with respect to the testimony about someone the president lunging towards the driver, my recollection of her testimony about that is that it was secondhand. She had said she'd heard that from somebody.
You familiar with the name Tony Ornato?
I'm sorry.
You familiar with the name Tony Ornato?
Yes.
White House Deputy Chief of Operations, Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations, right? Remember, you remember what he said about it?
As I sit here right now, I do not.
Yeah, he said it didn't happen. How about Bobby Engel? You familiar with that name?
Yes, I am.
Secret Service agent who was actually in the car that day. You know what he said? He said it didn't happen. And they both said the first time they ever heard this story was when Ms. Hutchinson testified in the primetime hearing as their star witness of the January 6th committee. By the way, did you ever confirm her testimony about this particular incident?
We conducted, as I said before, our own independent investigation of all aspects of the case that we thought was relevant. We, attorneys from my office.
Did you ever confirm it? That's a simple question.
We interviewed her, I should say, attorneys in my office.
Did you ever confirm the president leaping across the seat, grabbing the steering wheel, this whole concoction she brought up in the January 6th hearing? Did you ever confirm that?
Right. We interviewed another firsthand witness who was in the car who did not confirm that had happened, but also...
Your deposition to the committee last month, Mr. Smith, you said this: my recollection with Ms. Hutchinson was a number of the things that she gave evidence on were secondhand hearsay. Do you remember making that statement to us last month in the deposition?
I did, and I was referring particularly to what we're talking about now.
Yeah, and you also said Ms. Hutchinson, regarding this particular claim, was a second or even third-hand witness. We asked you, if you were a defense attorney, how would you handle cross-examining her if she was on the witness stand? And you said, if I were a defense attorney and Ms. Hutchinson were a witness, the first thing I would do was seek to preclude her testimony because it was hearsay. You remember saying all that?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
That's correct, right? Were you going to put her on the witness stand if you ever got to trial?
We had not made final determinations as to who we were going to call as a witness. We had a large...
You were still considering her?
We had a large choice of witnesses in this case.
Are you familiar with what Washington Post reporters Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis said in their book? They did this book, 300-some pages book on chronicling the whole investigation of the Justice Department. And here's what they said on page 310. They said Jack Smith had wondered whether some of Hutchinson's claims might be relied upon at trial. Still, at one point, Smith told the elections team he wasn't ready to give up on Hutchinson's account. Ultimately, however, Trump administration officials uniformly, fiercely disputed her accounts under oath. Prosecutors on your team told Smith they wouldn't want to use Hutchinson as a witness in court, and Smith agreed. Are Carol Leonnig and Aaron Davis, who wrote this, are they lying?
My recollection is that I certainly had not made any final determinations about who we were going to call.
And that's the point. That is the point. The fact that they used her in a primetime hearing and you won't rule out using her, or didn't rule out using her, putting her on the witness stand when everybody knows she wasn't telling the truth, that says it all. That's
damn.
the degree the left
Oh,
and
hello.
Democrats were willing to go
So,
against
thank you.
Trump. Putting on the witness stand
How are
someone
you today?
everybody knows is making it up. Everybody knows that. And you were willing to do it. By the way, you know how many times Cassidy Hutchinson was mentioned in their report, the January 6th report? Any idea, Mr. Smith?
I do not.
185 times. Someone that the whole country knows wasn't telling the truth, and you were still considering putting her on the witness stand.
Can you
because
hear?
You had to get President
Unmotivated
Trump.
and sleepy.
Everybody can see that.
Yeah, I got up just to watch this.
For votes, we will resume as soon as votes are over. Back here 10 minutes after. Ms. Smith, you guys can go back to
10 minutes after. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Yes, that's clear. I can hear. Oh, all right. That's cool. I don't know the quality of how it's going to actually go. I wasn't sure. I don't know if I can actually stream or have capabilities to do split window. So it's just on. Here's the droid in question for today. I'm pretty happy with its base color. Um, yeah. So greetings from the occupied state of Minnesota. Oh, they have to go to the floor and vote on something. Ugh. Man, I have been calling my reps a lot. uh, actually, you know what? One one thing I'm thinking of doing is when I do live streams is to actually like do the stream and then call my reps while on stream and do have whatever spaghetti mentality I want to throw at the wall. And like on some of my shorts, gosh, for a while I was like begging my reps, please ask the Supreme Court to rescind their fucking immunity decision. And whether or not they would actually do it, I mean, they could pin something like that while taking a dump. And it means more coming from my rep than me emailing the Supreme Court, which I have. Yeah, like just asking them to do fucking something, right? Let's see. You have Slotkin as a rep. She does pretty cool stuff. Um, yeah, normally I would be asleep by now, right now, and I really wanted. Oh wait, whoops, it's back on.
Pattern in individual's life. They know who
It
the
is.
speaker talked to before big votes, who he talked to after big votes, when he calls his colleagues, when he calls his family. And to add insult to injury, they go to the judge with the subpoena for a gag order on the carrier. AT&T, don't tell your customer, the Speaker of the House, that you just gave his phone calls to Jack Smith and Joe Biden.
Because your
Here's
customer
the kicker.
might have been
They say to
committing
the
a
court,
crime.
we need this gag order because he's a flight risk. Someone might tamper with witnesses or with evidence. Are you kidding me? The Speaker of the House is going to run? They got my phone records for 2.5 years. Even the Democrats said this was wrong. But of course, we shouldn't be surprised. Democrats have been going after President Trump for 10 years.
Oh, this is
for a decade. And the
Is this
country
a
should
repeat?
never, ever forget what they did. Over the next few hours, we're going to hear.
Damn. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Slot. Oh, you mean Stanbury? Yeah. Your Congress. Yeah, I get the two confused. I just know I don't like. I like yours, and the other one, even though they think that she's going to be a presidential hopeful in 3 years, no fucking way. As I appreciate her telling the troops, hey, you can ignore unlawful orders. I hate that she's one of the Democrats that are like, oh, we can work with ICE. Like, absolutely not. It's like, oh, God damn it. Like I've called Booker, I've called Booker and Schumer and this guy and that guy and all the fucks. Like, do not fund them. I don't want them to be better trained. I don't want my tax dollars teaching these paramilitary knuckleheads how to do things better, better range time, better equipment. Oh, body cams. We, the people, have a lot of cameras that will capture everything. It's done just fine with Renee Good. I like wanting to fund ICE and be like, oh, well, we'll train them better and they'll get better training. It's like saying, oh, let's just plow right into the Titanic or plow into the iceberg. We're gonna hit it, but let's just clear the deck and give the band better speakers. What the fuck? Actually, I'm losing my analogy. It's bad. It's bad. My rep went to I went to the only town hall that my rep has had in the last year that she told us she was doing. Most times she goes to like little tiny niches and then posts about it afterwards. Guess who I want to be primaried? But the one public hearing that or one town hall that she had that I was able to go to, she said when people were complaining about how things were working, and this is with the early days of Elon Musk trespassing, well, government moves slow. That was her excuse for not doing anything. And she got booed for that, and rightly so. And like, Trump has shown how fast he can move on stuff. Trump has shown how fast he can move to stay out of jail. And like, we all knew they had the plan. They had that Project 2025 ready to go. And they've been moving lickety split. And in theory, they shouldn't be able to move this fast. But, we know they had a plan. We know they were going to move fast. And Betty McCollum saying, well, government doesn't move that fast. Shithead. That comment did not age well. And the shit part is, like, we can find the that town hall. The audio on that is such garbage. Such garbage. And now I'm part of a neighborhood watch. When you break all the rules, things work fast. Absolutely. Absolutely. So last week, last Thursday, I ended up calling every Democratic member of this Judiciary Committee to see if they would ask one question for Jack Smith. It's been eluded. The question has kind of been eluded, but not asked. Fine, but at the same time, it's just starting. I'm going to be stoked if they ask it. But so I called there's 10 members I called for this, which is crazy. And you get to start out with like, sorry, I'm not from your district, but you represent an interest of mine. But I spoke to when you uphold the rule of law, things speed regulation. This is very true. Well, so how fast can you violate somebody for not holding up their oath of office, right? Like if you have 100 guys in Congress that betrayed their oath of office by helping this guy, how fast can you pop them for that and kick them out? So like and you're correct, Robin. And so like I called every member's office. I only got to speak to one staff. Everybody else was like voicemail. And the staff I talked to was Jasmine Crockett's, which was kind of nice. One, I was able, like, I mean, I'm a former Texan too, now living in the occupied state of Minnesota. But her staff was super nice. And it was super, and like, but near the end of it, I was like, oh, let me tell you how you guys are super nice. And she was, the young lady I talked to was super pleasant. She took the compliment well. And we bullshit about something else because I am a great bullshitter. And yeah, and wished her luck on her Senate campaign. The rep was saying she felt bound by the rule of structure, and Donald does not. Yeah. Yeah. So you got like Amber Ruffin earlier this year or late last or in 2025 was bitching about like why can't the Dems fight like the Republicans? Why can't they fight like Mitch McConnell? And it's partly because we are super divided. But like just one judge ordering arrests, please. Absolutely. Oh, the contempt. I cannot wait for that to happen. Interesting enough, though, like the dude who shot Renee Good, his life is over. Even though like he'll get away with whatever it federally, state charges, states rights, states charges. He'll be Derek Chauvin's cellmate. Eventually, I mean, like he's in hiding right now. Some report says he's on a military base, but his life is over. Like he's not going to be able to walk around like as a free man ever again. He's always going to be wondering if he'll get extra. Like if he leaves the state, he'll wonder if he's going to get extradited for the rest of his life. He'll be in hiding the rest of, for the unforeseeable future. I am very confident on that. As confident as I was about predicting a rabies outbreak during the Trump administration. And guess what? Texas has fox rabies outbreak right now. So obscure, yes, but yeah. Just one judge ordering arrests. We'll get that. We will get that, I'm sure. That might be the last legal thing that happens in this country, but yeah, unless the feds export him to. Yeah, no, but even you're right. I mean, they can bend over backwards, but that is going to be life altering for him. His life was never going to be the same. Like the day before he shot Renee Good, normal life for him. Day after, or the day of, his life's changed forever. That's where I'm going with on that. Yeah, they can put him in a federal witness protection program and whatnot, but like he'll always be looking over his shoulder. Like that dude is fucking toast. Like he committed a crime in Minneapolis, a blue city that has blue attorneys, blue prosecutors, blue juries. He's boned. If they can convict Derek Chauvin, they can convict him. Okay, it's back on. Oh, coming back. Oh, no, not yet. Hey, do you know what they had to vote on? So they had to go, apparently they had to go into the chamber and vote on something. I don't know if it was for voting for the judiciary committee or if they had to go on the House floor and vote on something. All right, so this dude is pretty based, not basic, but I got. If I were painting him all avocado green, he's done. Now I'm going to go find accent stuff, repaint those, or paint those the right colors, and then reapply like the weathering. But I thought it'd be cool to at least get all of it laid out in advance. See that I also did miss a spot or two. This guy, um, I'm pretty pleased the way it's coming out. I ended up spraying it with multiple colors before coming up here, and then giving it a um, oh, and then I'm going to or so I ended up giving it a bunch of different colors, then giving it overall like pale yellow. So it was magenta, blue, and green underneath, and then it got a pale yellow, which ended up turning it into like this muddy yellow here, and here, and here, and then uh, different tones of green because of the green and the blue green underneath. I like it. It's created a lot of visual interest quickly. Oh, we're still in session. We're doing a replay on Jamie Raskin's opening. I mean, like Jamie Raskin is he once got his hand caught in a cookie jar because he didn't file his paperwork for insider trading in time. He got all up on all up on the cameras and apologized and looked heartfelt. Oh, sorry, and blah blah blah. So rather, none of them are without sin. Oh gosh, did you see the shit about the pastor in Minneapolis being a member of ICE? The right outrage because they came into his temple. Like, yeah, Jesus would have done the exact same thing, you assholes. All right. Okay, now we're going to put some magenta tones and some blue green. I think I read a commentator mentioning that. Yeah. So there was also a white supremacist rally this past weekend, and resistance leadership asked people not to go. I didn't go because it was butt ass cold out there, and I knew those pussy ass bitches would not be able to handle Minnesota cold. And I was pretty right. There was only a dozen or two of those those Nazis out there. They also expected ICE and Minneapolis police to back them up, which they did not. And the leader of the rally got the shit pelted out of him by water balloons, and rumor says he pissed himself. Hey, how's it going? Rumor says he pissed himself. I don't care. I mean, like, I suppose if you go out there with an unpopular opinion and you're already terrified, and then you see hundreds of people pissed off at your messaging because you're promoting messaging that is inconvenienced or put people's physical safety at hand. Yeah. And you're in sub-freezing temperatures. Maybe you deserve to get hit with a water balloon or two or three or 2 dozen. Hey, thanks a bunch. Welcome to the chat. Did you see the gonk droid in progress? I think the Kool-Aid shirt was appropriate. You guys think that was all right? Like, it's my own, like, Jim Jones type deal. Really, Trump had his Jim Jones moment in August of 2020, which is when I started following Jan 6th. You don't have to take my word for this, but if you look at the poison control website and look up number of bleach poisonings for May or April and May of 2020, you'll see a massive spike upwards from going from the hundreds to the thousands. And in April of 2020 is when Trump said two most dangerous things to the American public at that time, which was they're going to cheat to win or have to cheat to win. Already planted a Jan 6 seed then, but that's also the same month he put the famous bleach comment of like ingesting bleach, injecting bleach into your system, and thousands of Americans took him for his word took him at his word for that, and yeah, so there is that. Excuse me. Okay, while we are still on break, I'll be right. Let's see. Didn't that pro-ICE guy get physically rescued by a progressive activist and then get driven to a safe space by a trans woman? Shows the empathy gap there. I don't know about the second part, but I know a person of color did end up helping him get out of there, which I thought was great. Of course, I've also been following the exploits of the Black Panthers as of late in Philadelphia, and I've been gung ho on that too. I'm going to be right back. I've had, yeah, be right back. So, unfortunately, I do not think I'm going to be able to sit and watch this whole testimony. I have to get. I have stuff to prepare for this weekend, and I am not stepping outside tomorrow. Um, like partly because of the statewide boycott, but also it is going to be butt ass cold tomorrow. There should be no temperature above 0 all day. So I plan on staying in the whole day. So whatever shopping that I have to do for screen class gets done today. So it just means a couple errands I have to run and then go to my makerspace to get stuff prepared. I mean, like if I don't get it all prepared today, then I may go into the makerspace, but that is not buying a thing. So Robin, you'll appreciate this. I think I may have told you this. I don't remember. But time is a wheel. It's 2026, and once again, volunteering at an NPO, have a position of management, and I do gate duty now. Like we are now volunteers have been asked to watch the door because they don't want ICE anywhere near our private club. Yeah, I really want to see if Jack Smith will be able. I don't think he'll finger a single congressman, but I really want him to be able to identify that yes, congressman tried to help him. Oh, I did. So let's see. I've already sung praise for the Black Panthers today. Good on them. one of the, and I was discussing this last night with at our open house. Like 10 years ago, I totally thought more folks in power would be like, no, 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 no. Like 10 years ago, like 23. Um, I've been waiting for this shit since after 9/11. Um, see, yeah, they're still waiting on them to come in. Yeah, I've been waiting for this since 9/11. Yeah, so I always thought that Hunter S. Thompson killed himself. I always thought he did it right after 9/11, and I always thought his suicide note was to. Uh, anyway, I found I looked up. I did some more extra research instead of based on the assumption. Uh, Learned about why he died, or what led to his death, and it's very interesting. In fact, I think I'm going to listen to that again when I go to the gallery today. Anyway, long story short, too late. Yeah, I figured the moment they made us take our shoes off in the airports, that was the start of it. And oh, nice. I figured that was the start of it. And interesting, I wrote Pete Buttigieg a few times asking when were we going to be able to keep our shoes on in the airports, and that fell on deaf ears. And then the more and more I would watch progressive media on YouTube, and seeing that Pete Buttigieg would go on there, he's a media darling, isn't he? I would ask them, hey, ask Buttigieg when we can keep our shoes on in the airports. And of course, that is totally totally fell on deaf ears there too. That's it, man. Like once 9/11 happened, they were starting to take away that kind of liberty. Holy shit. Like we knew this was coming. I mean, like I saw it soon enough that when I after I applied to the air marshals, I knew I didn't want to, like shortly after applying to the air marshals, I knew I didn't want to do it and withdrew my application after making it through to the third round. And one of the people who helped me get that far ahead, when I told him why, he was kind of pleased. And of course, that was Mr. Turner, my government teacher. He knew guys and pulled strings to get me put ahead. And like I probably would have been retired from working for the government if I went down that road. It does seem safer than before the TSA. I hate airports. Like you're not gonna win me on that. I freaking hate airports. And like last time I flew, it's like, okay, I counted 16 canine units in Minneapolis, St. Paul Airport. 16 canine units, and every police officer there was carrying an assault rifle. It's not how I feel safe. It's not how I feel safe by my government. How's that? And very interesting. Like, I don't know if you've seen the dude. Lots of Minnesotans are going viral right now, and that is cool. There was one dude, heavy set white dude, that was walking around or standing around with an AR-15. I'm not a fan of that platform, by the way, but anyway, he's standing around holding that, some news person interviews him, and they're like, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And he's just like standing there. He's like, "I'm watching the neighborhood," and they, a couple times he just shrugs it off, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm just watching my neighborhood." They asked him his name, and he's like, "Nah, I don't need to give that." And I was like, "All right, very cool." My only thought about that. Let's see. I do not think my personal comfort is more important than infrastructure rates. Why? And weirdly enough, I have not noticed the guns. I think I've mentally normalized it for fair. Yeah, and so like they wanted to get so this guy, right? Standing outside AR-15. All right, cool. Saw the guy on the news too. Excellent. So where I one of the factors, there's a bunch of them. One of the factors I believe that why ICE is here is because Minnesota does have strict carry laws. Like in a lot of states, you have to have a license to carry a handgun, concealed or out in public. In Minnesota, you need a permit to carry any firearm out in public, even a hunting rifle to handgun. And I believe ICE targeted us because of that. Okay, sounds reasonable, right? So I was looking, looking up that law. I am a law-abiding citizen, and yeah. So then you look up, okay, well, what's the process of getting a permit to carry in Minnesota? Well, you have to go through training. Fair. I totally appreciate that. I think everybody should. And then after you go through training, you have to submit your achievement to the sheriff's office, your local sheriff's office, and then they get to approve that whether or not you get a permit to carry. So if your sheriff is working with ICE, he may delay or deny your desire to get a permit to carry. Okay, fine, or not fine, but they are here because they're here for all kinds of reasons. But because we have a limited carry law, I think it's a factor. I'm not saying it's the only reason. I'm just saying it's in the list of reasons to be here. So while looking up this, I decided I was like, okay, I'm going to look up when I could, if I wanted to get a carry license, where and when. Locally, when I looked it up about a week ago, all facilities in St. Paul were booked solid for 2 weeks. And that's good, because that means a lot of people all of a sudden decided we're going to be out in public armed. Not the greatest solution, but like I said, I approve of how the Black Panthers have been handling things in Philadelphia, and we can do that too. I am not for political violence because Tupac. They're here because Tupac. Absolutely. I'm not for political violence, but we all know it's coming, right? Like, or we all know it's here too. Like, I'm gonna retract. We all know it's here. It's here. It's all perpetrated on one side, and we know one day there will be retaliation from those being oppressed. You might as well be prepared for the worst case scenario. I'm a big fan of being prepared. Now, in the event, this is the other, this is a segue for it. If you are not a fan of owning a firearm, that is fine. That is on you. No judgment there. If you also feel like you want to protect your home and you do not want a firearm, get a dog. It has been my experience with all my friends that I have had in law enforcement, and my neighbor who was Border Patrol years and years ago. Law enforcement of any kind does not like going into homes with dogs because dogs are an unknown. Now, would Insano ICE people have that same consideration? Maybe. Nowadays, my mailbox has a little tiny paw sticker on it to let emergency workers know should the house is burning down, we have a dog inside, so they can look for it or they can be aware of it. That little sticker might also be a deterrent for people who come door to door, or at the very least, my dog is going to be doing dog things and letting me know that there's something at the door. Sounds harsh. That is the world we are in now. Okay, so I am slowly adding in. I chose this really translucent blue-green to start laying out accents. So like the vast majority of this dude is going to be like this nice pea green yellow, pea yellow green. And I'm just plugging in some things that I want to be blue-green. And then I'm going to pick out some stuff that I kind of want to be that I want to have a magenta tone, red violet tone to it. This part is going to be black. It'll make this thing stand out like crazy. Maybe some freehand over here. Yeah, so I have a short or a reel on my Instagram, which that put me, I'm pretty certain that put me over 2,000 followers, and also very cool about that. I'm going to have a 2K giveaway soon. Toot toot. And it is the most polite interaction I've had with the ICE since I've been participating in Neighborhood Watch. I don't know what else to call it, but Neighborhood Watch seems like the best. All right. I don't know how many people are following. Oh, I got 3. That's cool. Oh man, that Jim Jordan, the replay. CNN, C-SPAN has the replay of what just happened going on. Like that Jim Jordan is butt hurt. Here's the really aggravating thing. Like in whatever budget bill was last put up, and something that got shot down on it was all the senators who were butthurt about their phones having toll records subpoenaed. They all wanted compensation from that bill. So like, I think they wanted $500,000 per. So you had like 9 senators wanting $500,000 compensation for having their records subpoenaed. Like, you're a suspect. And you're screaming loud about that. Like, you should be investigated. These are all people who like gave aid and comfort during from election, or actually from April of 2020 to January 6th. Lindsey Graham and Josh Hawley are two that most famously stick out. Josh run like hell Hawley, because we saw footage of him running out of the to safety in the Capitol. Hand up, Josh Hawley. Remember that. Solidarity to the protesters that were at the Capitol at that time. And Lindsey Graham, god dang, I freaking hate Lindsey Graham. Goes up there with crocodile tears. They're after Trump. Send Trump money. Send me. You got $10, $5, $1. Go send it to Trump, or you can go to lindseygraham.com and send it to me. Yeah, that doesn't scream innocent boy, does it? Like, anybody hear the rumor of from the Epstein files that Donald Trump was sucking somebody's D? And maybe all this is because Donald Trump doesn't want that, and that picture's in Putin's hands. I don't understand how guys who are clearly only showing self-interest can last more than a single elected term. It's so performative. And like, correct. I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm going to explain it, but I don't understand how they keep successfully doing it. You ever watch pro wrestling? Oh, good. Okay, so let's explain. Cool, not since the 80s. All right. I want you to imagine that the audience of WWE are voters, and they love the drama that the Republicans stir up because they've been conditioned because of wrestling to vote that way. Oh, and here the replay of Jim Jordan punching holes in Cassidy Hutchinson. Just because she was a third party to the event in the SUV doesn't mean she didn't watch Mark Meadows burn documents. I am surprised though. Okay, the committee's coming back. Point to think about that I was thinking of last night. I wonder when we're going to see attacks on Mike Pence because he didn't cooperate with the insurrection on January 6th. I wonder if we're going to see him get targeted sometime. Trump's going after his political enemies. I wonder when Pence gets that. All right, so I'm going to turn the volume up. And yeah.
And to get President Trump, they were willing to do just about anything.
Oh, no,
January
it's not.
7th, 2023,
They're
Kevin McCarthy.
not convening yet. It's like, okay, they're complaining that Kevin McCarthy's phone records got subpoenaed, right? Everybody remember the picture of Kevin McCarthy with Trump at Mar-a-Lago, looking like they're both like freaking used car salesmen? You wonder why his phone records were subpoenaed, right? It was also known on January 6th that the president had been in contact with him. There's reason. And they're all like, "Oh, why'd you subpoena his records?" Because he helped, assholes. You want to make a guy who helped look like a victim. So this is kind of fun. I like doing this. I don't like that I'm up this early, but you know. Okay, cool. They're coming back in. Volume goes up. Editorial goes down. Right. You can't hear. Oh, they're still getting into the. They're still coming into the room. You just got murmuring. I mean, like, I wonder. I don't know how long this is going to be. I think I have to pull out in about two hours to make sure my day's super successful. Oh,
Committee will come to order. Gentlemen from ranking members.
fucking sounded like he dropped the gavel.
Thank you very kindly, Mr. Chairman. And this just goes to the question of the hypothetical witness at the trial that didn't happen. New York Times, May 1, 2024, Trump acknowledges he wanted to go to the Capitol on January 6th.
Objection.
Carol Leonnig, who you quoted, Carol Leonnig outlines Tony Ornato's history of lies. That's June 30, 2022.
Objection.
In July 1, 2022, the men disputing Hutchinson's testimony are two of Trump's biggest acolytes. And finally, June 29, 2022, CNN, Cassidy Hutchinson stands by her testimony amid pushback. Thank you very much.
Gentleman from New York is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who's that?
Mr. Smith, over the past few years,
That is
Republicans have
not.
waged constant attacks on you. Donald Trump has said you are totally compromised, a political hitman, a left-wing radical, a criminal, a fully weaponized monster. That
Oh,
you should
Nadler.
be considered mentally
Okay.
deranged and thrown out.
Can you hear now?
Just this week, he called you a sick bastard. Unfortunately, the rules of decorum prevent me from saying what I think of Donald Trump. But he is not the only one to launch attacks against you. Chairman Jordan has accused you of abusive surveillance and accused you and your team of partisan and politically motivated prosecutions. Despite the mountain of evidence that you laid out in the special counsel's report and in your court filings, President Trump's supporters are convinced that the only reason your team tried to hold him accountable is because you have a vendetta against him. I want to address these allegations today. You've had a long and distinguished career with the Justice Department, including
That's
serving as the
pink.
chief of DOJ's Public Integrity Section for 5 years. While leading the Public Integrity Section, you led investigations and prosecution of public figures and political leaders from both parties, Republicans and Democrats. Can you give us a couple of examples?
Oh yeah, he went to that Kerry's
Sorry about that.
John Edwards. He went
During my time as the chief of public integrity, I investigated cases involving both Republicans and Democrats. The standard in all of those cases was the same.
Yeah, he got
Follow the
smoked by
facts and the
by
law.
John
It
Edwards.
didn't matter what party you were in, it mattered the facts of the case. In doing that, there were cases I brought against Democrats and cases I brought against Republicans. There were also cases that I investigated and did not bring against Democrats and Republicans. Party affiliation played no role in my investigations. I can think of multiple cases of prominent members of Congress that we investigated who were Republicans who, upon reviewing the law and the facts, I decided not to go forward in those cases. And the same could be said with people on the Democratic side. I've always tried to follow the facts and law in my career.
When it comes to deciding whether to pursue a criminal prosecution of an individual, what factors do you consider?
The primary factors are the facts and the law. As a federal prosecutor, in making a prosecutorial decision, you're guided by the federal principles of prosecution, which guide one not only to look at the facts and the law, but the federal interests.
Kind of like
And
this
that is
color.
exactly what we did in this case, as set forth in my final
It's very
report.
translucent, though.
Does partisan politics play a role in your decision whether or not to prosecute someone?
None.
To be clear, did partisan politics play a role in your decision to charge Donald Trump?
It did not.
What does it do to the justice system if political leaders place pressure on prosecutors to file charges against their political enemies? What are the implications if prosecution decisions are based on politics, not the law?
I think it weakens the rule of law in our country because it weakens the mechanism for us to prosecute, among other things, corruption. When there is political prosecutions targeting people because they're enemies of the president, the department loses credibility and it can't do its job in all sorts of cases.
According to your deposition before this committee, it sounds like your problem was not determining if you had enough evidence to charge Donald Trump, but rather that you might have had too much evidence and struggled to determine how to present a clear narrative to a jury. How would
Sure.
you characterize
Overwhelmed. And
the evidence against Mr. Trump about inciting an insurrection against the laws of this country? Did you have too much?
Well, with respect to presenting the case that we charged, one of the central challenges was trying to present that in a concise way because we did have so many witnesses. Some of the most powerful witnesses were witnesses who, in fact, were fellow Republicans who had voted for Donald Trump, who had campaigned for him, and who wanted him to win the election. These included state officials, people who worked on his campaign, and advisors. I will say, however, with respect to the charge of insurrection, we did not charge that, as I set forth in my report. Well, I believe that there is, courts have found that that was an insurrection and that there's a reasonable interpretation, a reasonable prosecutor could interpret the evidence to support that charge. I chose not to do that, looking at the facts and the law. I thought the charges we brought were appropriate, given the evidence that we had.
Thank you, Mr. Smith, for
Okay,
your
so-
decades-long public service and for working tirelessly to
There
uphold the
we
rule
go.
of law. Those who attack and smear you and your team in order to protect Donald Trump should be ashamed of themselves. I yield back.
Someone yields back. Someone from California is recognized.
Mr. Smith,
it's not swallow, is it?
do you see criminals to my left? You don't see any. Do you see people who are committing crimes because they continue to believe things that just aren't true? That's paraphrasing Ronald Reagan, that liberals aren't stupid. They just know things that don't happen to be true. If the president believed that he was cheated in an election, that there was fraud, or in some other way, a number of items led to his defeat, when in fact he should have won according to the Constitution, does that make him a criminal?
Sir,
No, that's a yes or no, please, Mr. Smith. These people here are continuing to grapple constantly with things that aren't true, like socialism.
Oh, this.
Or that somehow
fucking
everything the
dude.
Republicans do is evil and everything they do
Okay,
is
so we
right.
have
They've never reached a conclusion.
Rep.
in a
Daryl
typical
Lisa
partisan case in
from
which
California.
because
He's
we
going to
think
be out of a
something
job
different,
in a year.
We're not wrong.
Um,
You understand the Constitution.
I think he signed on to that Texas.
Someone has the absolute
Check my
right
notes.
to believe something, whether it's true or not, to advocate for something, whether it's true or not. Do you understand that in addition to your oath to the Constitution, that's one of the things the First Amendment allows for, isn't it?
Oh,
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you know that people have a right to opine,
I wonder if he ran on election denialism. Daryl
do
Issa.
everything they can legally to
Oh,
ask for
he's not
people
on the
to,
other
to
list.
make different decisions, then why is it you saw criminal conduct on behalf of a president who believed he didn't win? Chairman Jordan and myself have something in common along with a number of others here.
Yeah, you
We
helped.
saw wrongdoing, and on January 6th, we voted not to confirm 2 states because they had violated the U.S. Constitution in how they selected who got ballots. And yet, you're
State
gonna come
rights.
here and say, "Well, I just followed the law." When you went after these people and you said, "Well, technically, I can do that," you didn't see any selective nature or any separation of powers under the Constitution to spying on the activities and the conversations of the Speaker of the House.
Here we go.
What end with conversations between the Speaker of the U.S. House, third or second in line to be the President, and the President? In what basis would it be any of your business other than you believe that there was a conspiracy without conspiracy as a basic premise?
So McCarthy
You,
and
like the
Trump
President's men
were
for Richard Nixon,
not.
went after your political enemies. Maybe they're not your political enemies, but they sure as hell were Joe Biden's political enemies, weren't they?
No, that's
Harris's political enemies.
that's
They were the
wrong.
enemies of the president, and you were their arm, weren't you? No. Oh, great. So you spied on the Speaker of the House and these other senators and so on, and informed no one, and in fact put in a gag order so they couldn't discover it. If they were not subjects of a conspiracy investigation, why did Congress, a separate branch that you, under the Constitution, have to respect? Why is it that no one should be informed, including the judges? As you went in to spy on these people, did you mention that you were spying on seeking records so you could find out about when conversations occurred between the U.S. Speaker of the House and the President? Did you inform the judge, or did you hold that back?
These guys can't.
Spy on anyone?
Wait a second. The question I asked you, Mr. Smith, was pretty straightforward. Did you withhold that information from an Article 3 judge in the process of taking the records of the Speaker of the House?
We complied with the.
Did you hold
Mr.
back?
Chairman, would you please instruct the gentleman to allow the witness to answer the question?
It's not your time. I'd like my time back.
Mr. Chairman, you have repeatedly done that in the past. The witness has the right to answer the question.
And there'll be due time to answer the question. Would you please put my time back and let me finish this? Mr. Smith, I asked you a question and you were not responsive to it, and I want you to be responsive to it. Did you, whether you think it was legal or not, whether you think it was right or not, did you withhold the name of Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House, when you were seeking records on Kevin McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, or Jim Jordan, the chairman of this committee?
At the time the gentleman is.
No, please give me back the time and
No,
take it away.
I'm just expired, but we're going to let the witness answer your question because it's an important question. Witness can respond.
We did not provide that information to the judge when we requested a non-disclosure order, consistent with the law and consistent with the party's.
Mr. Chairman, the amazing thing here today is that we have an admission that an article.
Chairman, the gentleman's time has expired by now 34 seconds.
It gets spoiled in 5 minutes. How many times are you going to interrupt me?
The time belongs to the gentleman from California, it has
I
expired.
will be brief in my address to the chairman. We have the evidence that an Article 1 representative on behalf of the president withheld that Article 3.
Mr. Chairman, I read the
information. With that, I yield back in disgust of this witness.
Sticking with California, the gentlelady from California is now
Zoe
recognized.
Mr. Smith, thank you for being here today. Earlier the chairman spent a lot of time talking about Cassidy Hutchinson, who we know is just one of many witnesses. it's important to note that there was testimony that she was told something by Mr. Ornato, not that she had personal knowledge. And of course, Mr. Ornato was of very questionable veracity. We had
Covering her
testimony
ass.
from a Metropolitan Police Department.
All right, so there's some magenta
official
being laid out.
about an argument, a big argument that the president was having about going to the Capitol. And in fact, the vehicle was delayed going back to the Capitol while that argument occurred. But having said that, I want to focus on something my colleagues across the aisle seem to want to ignore. The fact that your investigation into President Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election was built on testimony from members of the Republican Party. In fact, last week, the New York Times published grand jury transcripts from Georgia that show the same pattern in Trump's Georgia criminal case. Georgia's Republican Attorney General Chris Carr testified that he told, quote, this is a quote, "We're just not seeing the things that you are seeing." And the late Georgia House Speaker David Ralston, also a Republican, testified that Trump's fake elector scheme was, quote, "the craziest thing I've heard." And then there's Senator Lindsey Graham, one of the president's closest allies. In his secret grand jury testimony, Senator Graham told the jurors, quote, "I have told him more times than we can count that he fell short," unquote. And then he said,
And yet he still helped.
"If you told him Martians came and stole votes, he'd be inclined to believe it." Martians, that's from Senator Graham speaking under oath. So here's my question. Mr. Smith, in your deposition with this committee, you testified, and here's a quote, "Our case was built on, frankly, Republicans who put their allegiance to the country before the party." Also, that the president's closest allies are telling him that his claims of election fraud are wrong. And so I'm just wondering, can you explain what you meant in your deposition that it was Republicans who were putting their allegiance to their country ahead of their party?
Yes. There were witnesses who I felt would be very strong witnesses, including, for example, the Secretary of State in Georgia, who told Donald Trump the truth, told him things that he did not want to hear, and put him on notice that what he was saying was false. These were people who knew how the elections were conducted in these states. And I believe that witnesses of that nature, witnesses who are willing to tell the truth, even if it's going to impose a cost on them in their lives, my experience as a prosecutor over 30 years is that witnesses like that are very credible, and that jurors tend to believe witnesses like that because they pay a cost for telling the truth.
In terms of the grand jury testimony that's now been released, the fact that Donald Trump, according to Senator Graham, would believe that Martians stole the election, what does that tell you about Trump's state of mind?
He's a loony.
That statement is consistent with what we found in our investigation, in that our investigation revealed that Donald Trump was not looking for honest answers about whether there was fraud in the election. He was looking for ways to stay in power. And when people told him things that conflicted with him staying in power, he rejected them, or he chose not even to contact people like that who would know if the election was done properly in the state. On the other hand, when individuals would say things that would allow him to stay in power, no matter how fantastical, he would latch onto those. That pattern, over time, we felt was powerful evidence that he, in fact, knew that the fraud claims he was making were false.
You know, who were some of the Republican witnesses who told you that President Trump that his claims of election fraud were false? Can you share that with us?
There were a range of witnesses. They ranged from people on his campaign team who had wanted him to win, were employed to help him win the election. They included state officials, state Republican officials who wanted him to win, voted for him, campaigned for him, asked him and his co-conspirators to provide evidence to support their claims, and invariably they never did. It included officials, advisors, people he worked with in the White House who he relied upon.
So you think it's a coincidence that Jack Smith's doing this testimony today and JD Vance is going to be in Minneapolis in about 5 hours?
Time of the gentle lady has expired.
Mr. Chairman, with my fellow California, you were allowing the
Yeah,
witness.
it's a good question. Isn't that grounds to let him answer?
I'm giving him 30 seconds extra. The gentle lady 30 seconds extra. If the gentleman can be concise and finish up here quickly, we will allow him to finish.
Yes, sir. And just conclude saying we felt that constituted powerful evidence of the knowing falsity of his statements in furtherance of the fraud.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to yield back, noting the presence of officers who were severely
You got
attacked,
nothing to yield back. You're running over. The gentleman from
protecting
Texas.
our lives on January 6th.
The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gill, is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Smith, in January of 2023, did you subpoena then Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's toll records?
Yes, sir, we did.
Yes, you did. And the subpoena covered the time period between November 2020 and January 2021. Is that right?
I'm sorry, sir. Could you say that again?
We're not going to delay like this. The subpoena covered the time period between November of 2020 and January 2021. How many days after Kevin McCarthy was sworn in as Speaker did you subpoena his records?
I don't recall, but
Maybe I guess it depends
It
how
was
well they
16
plan
days
it
after
currently.
becoming the highest-ranking Republican in the House of Representatives, you subpoenaed his toll records. Do you agree that might reasonably be considered a violation of the speech or debate clause?
Absolutely not.
I do not, and I want to be clear that the toll
You were collecting months' worth of phone data on the Republican Speaker of the House, the leader of the opposition, right after he got sworn in as Speaker, all around the time of a major vote. That sounds like a flagrant violation of the speech or debate clause to me, and I think most people agree with me. And Speaker McCarthy had no recourse, did he? Because you issued a non-disclosure order ensuring that neither he nor any of the American people knew about these subpoenas. Is that right?
I don't know. I don't want to give predictions for why Vance is in.
toll record subpoenas. We did
I have
secure
4.
non-disclosure orders for those subpoenas.
You did. And let me ask you, Mr. Smith, at the time you secured those non-disclosure orders, was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
Could be. Yeah.
The non-disclosure order was based on concerns about.
Was Speaker McCarthy a flight risk?
He was not.
He was not. Then why did your non-disclosure order refer to him as a flight risk? It says right here, the court finds reasonable grounds to believe that such disclosure will result in flight from prosecution.
Sir, when securing a non-disclosure order, the risks don't have to be
You
associated.
think that the Speaker of the House is a flight risk?
Question?
No, this is not your time. This is my time. You think the Speaker of the House is a flight risk? You think he's going to hop on a plane and leave the country?
No, what I was trying to explain is with respect to a non-disclosure order, the risks aren't necessarily associated with this.
Oh yeah, because you put all of them in there.
There are the risks to
Okay.
investigation.
I think that you were using, this was clearly in reference to Speaker McCarthy, and you were using clearly false information to secure a non-disclosure order to hide from Speaker McCarthy and from the American people the fact that you were spying on his toll records. But I've got more, so let's move on. In May of 2023, you also issued some
Wow, it's
toll
windy
records
as
of
fuck out
9
there.
U.S. senators and an additional representative. Is that right?
In May of 23, we did issue.
You did, and there were non-disclosure orders in conjunction with those subpoenas as well, right?
That's correct, consistent with department policy and
Right.
the law.
So again, nobody would know what you were doing. The senators would, and the representatives would, and the American people wouldn't know what you were doing. Is that right?
The toll records that we secured and the non-disclosure orders were consistent with policy and
And you knew whenever you were doing that there was a risk you were violating the speech or debate clause. Is that right?
The toll record subpoenas that we secured were with the concurrence of the public integrity.
Your own analysis says that you knew there was a risk you were violating the speech or debate clause. I have it right here. This is an email from John Keller at Public Integrity Section to your team. As you are aware, quote, as you are aware, there is some litigation risk regarding whether compelled disclosure of toll records of a member's legislative calls violates the speech or debate clause in the DC Circuit. That's from your own analysis right there. So you did know, didn't you?
So with respect to the item you just put up on the screen, the last sentence states,
we're going to get to the last sentence.
okay,
We're going to get to the last sentence. And
Oh, okay.
case law in here, quote, the bar on compelled disclosure is absolute. Is that right? Or do you think that you didn't have to abide by that precedent?
to be clear, this statement is not from my office. This is the statement.
This is your justification for those subpoenas and NDOs that you ordered. This was part of your analysis. It's a cursory analysis. I think it's worth noting. But let's get to that last sentence then. Quote, given my understanding of the low likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged, the litigation risk should be minimal here. In other words, you're using a novel legal theory, which you knew was novel. It's never been tested by any court. You're not charging any of these
I like that
members.
pink
Nobody's
wrench.
going to know about it
Oh,
because
that
you
needs to
issued
be pink.
NDOs. Nobody's
Yeah,
going to
that
sue
needs-
about it, so sue this. So who cares? We're going to do it anyways. You walked all over the Constitution throughout this entire process.
Chairman, the gentleman's time is
Fired members of Congress, and you know it. It's absolutely disgraceful. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Not going to be charged. They're not going to see it. They're not going to know because we're not going to tell them. So let's go ahead and do it. It's exactly what happened. The gentleman from Tennessee is recognized.
Oh, Jordan, you're out of
Thank you,
order.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, it's
Who is this?
great that you've been allowed to come here and testify to the American public. Is there anything you'd like briefly to discuss that Mr. Gill brought up on the reasons why you needed those phone records and the limitations that you thought might have been
Oh,
on you and the prosecution
Tennessee.
because of to risk the investigation?
Sure. And I would begin by pointing out that the email that was referenced wasn't a justification from my office. It was an email from the Public Integrity Section to my office approving the subpoenas. The subpoenas that we secured with non-disclosure orders
Yeah.
from a judge because I had grave concerns about obstruction of justice in this investigation, specifically with regards to Donald Trump. Not only did we have the obstruction of justice that we were investigating in the classified documents case, but I was aware during the course of our investigation of targeting of witnesses. During the course of the conspiracy itself, there were election workers who had their lives turned upside down and received vile death threats because they were targeted by Donald Trump and his co-conspirators. I had a duty to protect witnesses in this investigation. That risk, that threat to witnesses was only confirmed when we went forward in this case and Donald Trump suggested that one witness should be put to death and then also issued a statement to the effect of, if you come after me, I'm coming after you. In my mind, I can't think of a more direct threat to witnesses and individuals involved in that proceeding. Given that sort of threats, it was, in my view, completely appropriate to protect the integrity of the investigation, to protect against destruction of evidence, and to protect the witnesses in our case.
And just to make clear, you did not see any of the discussion. It was not any, it was just the content that they made a call to the president and vice versa, but nothing about any content whatsoever.
That's correct. A toll record subpoena gives you who a call is from.
It's caller ID. These guys are like, oh, you opened it up and read my secret private live journal.
One that you would win beyond a reasonable doubt, no moral certainty. Is there anything in your facts that you had that you would have used at trial that you believe has not been presented to the public in the past or have been misrepresented to the public?
Oh, good question.
Is there anything?
Essential facts that you had that you felt would have resulted in a
Okay.
conviction of the president on the
I
charges?
think all the colors are laid out except right there.
I think my report, the report of our case, the final report, summarizes the evidence, I think, in a way that is gives a fair reading of the strength of the case.
And you have no question but have been successful for a jury.
My review of the case, I came to the conclusion we had proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We were ready, willing, and able to go to trial in the case. Of course, as I said in my opening statement, prosecutors can't control outcomes, but I felt confident in pursuing the case to trial.
Did Merrick Garland ever pressure you to bring an indictment or to do anything in your investigation?
No.
Did anybody else in the administration, President Biden, Vice President Harris, etc.?
I was given the independence to conduct my investigation, and I came to the decision to bring charges in this case
Where's Black?
without undue influence from anybody in the department.
And you dropped the case. Why did you drop the case?
The cases against Donald Trump were dismissed pursuant to department policy.
Department policy, Office of Legal Counsel said if somebody's president, you can't bring a charge against them or they can't be held liable. Is that correct?
That's correct. There had not been a case of this nature ever where someone was elected president with charges pending, and so that was slightly different. So we consulted with with the Office of Legal Counsel, and they determined, pursuant to policy, that the cases needed to be dismissed.
And you weren't pleased with that, but you had to follow the law, and that's what you did.
We followed policy throughout my investigation. My job was not to set policy. My job was to follow it, and that's what we did.
I want to thank you for your service. I think you're a great American, and you came out of this as being somebody who people can respect and look up to in a fashion that we should be instilling people's desire to go into justice, to go into law, and to go into government. You're an example of the type of person they should follow. I yield back the balance of the time.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Wisconsin is recognized.
Mr. Smith, there's something that's really bothering me since your deposition. It's how and why you got the position of special counsel
Oh, this.
and your personal relationship with Marshall Miller. Let's go back to 1999 when you were working for the United States Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York. Is that when you first met Marshall Miller?
Yes.
So after
Okay,
New
so
York,
black
did the
screen.
two of you ever work together again prior to becoming special counsel?
11.
According to the public
Okay, I have an
audios,
hour before I have to
Mr.
think
Miller,
about
you
getting
overlapped
out
the
of
DOJ
here.
from 2014-15 when you were chief of
Crap.
DOJ's Public Integrity Section and Mr. Miller was chief of staff for DOJ's Criminal Division. Is that accurate?
I believe that is accurate, yes.
Okay, so were the two of you social outside of work?
I would say intermittently, yes.
Okay, but after 20 years of knowing each other, it's safe to say you were friends, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's fast forward to 2022. Mr. Miller is appointed Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General at DOJ, the number 3 at DOJ. You call your friend to congratulate him, and according to the deposition transcript, you say you'd be interested in a position at DOJ. Is that correct?
Yes. What I recall is that I expressed an interest if the right position came up, I would be interested in
But
considering.
at that point, there's no discussion about special counsel. Is that correct?
This is some time ago, and so I don't have a specific recollection of all these conversations.
So you were first approached about special counsel and that role before the 22 midterm elections. And according to the deposition transcript, in October of 2022, you fly to D.C., meet with the AG and the Deputy Attorney General. Is that correct?
Yes, I flew to DC, I believe it was in October, and I met the Deputy Attorney General, and also I met the Attorney General.
So in multiple conversations with your friend Marshall Miller, he never once tipped you off that the Attorney General or Deputy Attorney General have you on the short list for special counsel? That never came up?
Again, this was some time ago, but my recollection is I came to Washington and I met with those individuals as well as the Human Rights Section. Marshall Miller is the person who set that up.
So he was at the meetings. Was he at the meetings? So just to tie all this together, you've known Mr. Miller since you were both AUSA in New York. You stayed in touch over a 20-year career in federal government. He gets a job with the Biden administration, and just a few short months later, you're offered the role of special counsel. I'm having a hard time believing that this is some big coincidence and that there wasn't a back and forth on the special counsel. So maybe you never received directives explicitly from the AG or the Deputy Attorney General, but was Marshall Miller, did he become a two-way conduit throughout the investigation with DOJ?
No, and I would not take direction from a political person political figure about how I should conduct an investigation.
But you never spoke to him throughout the entire time you were conducting the investigation?
No, I didn't say that. What I said was he was. I think you asked if he was a conduit of information. He was present, to my recollection, at meetings, briefings that I had with the Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General during my time as special counsel.
I mean, I don't want to assume anything, but Mr. Miller wanted you in that position, not because you're necessarily the best lawyer he ever met, but because of the long-term friendship that you have with him.
What I can tell you is I have been a prosecutor for 30 years. I have been an apolitical public servant for 30 years. I've prosecuted cases against Democrats and Republicans, all the same. I've had, in my view, the experience necessary for this position, and that's why I accepted
This fucking guy.
So he knew that you would pursue, I mean, he had to have an idea that you would pursue exactly what the Biden administration wanted, which was criminal charges against President Trump.
I think that anybody who knows me well knows the idea that I would take direction from a political figure about how an investigation should come out. I don't think anybody who knows me thinks that's true.
Well, Chairman Jordan, I think the next deposition should be with Marshall Miller at this point. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized.
And while we are deposing Marshall Miller, maybe we can depose Donald Trump about why he chose his personal lawyer to be the head of the DOJ. On January 26th, the fifth anniversary of the insurrection, the White House launched a taxpayer-funded website that attempts to rewrite history about what happened on that day of infamy. On January 6, 2021, there was an insurrection at the United States Capitol that resulted in a police officer dying the next day, another 4 officers dying by suicide in the months thereafter, with at least 140 police officers being injured by the insurrectionists, with 15 of them requiring hospitalization. And I'm proud that we have 4 former officers as
I
well.
wonder if Harry Dunn's in the
Capitol Hill police officers
in the crowd. I don't remember
Mr.
hearing
Smith,
this.
I want to ask you about this
I don't know if
website
Noam's in there.
because the Trump administration is using taxpayer dollars to lie to the American people about the events leading up to and the events taking place on January 6th.
All right, so there we go. We're now adding a
For
little
example,
value
this
to the
Trump propaganda
magenta
site
pink.
claims that the 2020 election was, quote, stolen. Mr. Smith, did your investigation uncover evidence sufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump knew that his claim that the election was stolen was false?
Yes, it did.
And did your investigation uncover evidence sufficient to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Donald Trump publicly claimed that the 2020 election was stolen from him while he privately acknowledged that he had lost the election?
Yes, we cited instances of that during in our case.
But yet here we see that on the 5th anniversary of the insurrection, the Trump White House propaganda machine is still promoting the stolen election theory on this government webpage.
Lie. It's not a
text
theory.
box
It's a lie.
titled, quote, fraudulent election, stolen election certified, end quote. The site also has a subsection reading in part, quote, FBI entrapment operation exposed. Mr. Smith, did your investigation develop any evidence to support the allegation that the FBI entrapped insurrectionists into committing crimes on January 6th?
Our investigation revealed that Donald Trump is the person who caused January 6th, that it was foreseeable to him, and that he sought to exploit the violence.
This website also accuses you of being a, quote, Biden prosecutor who brought, quote, weaponized charges against Mr. Trump. Mr. Smith, were you a Biden prosecutor who weaponized the Department of Justice against Donald Trump?
Absolutely not.
Did Attorney General Merrick Garland direct you to prosecute Trump because Donald Trump was running against Joe Biden in the presidential election?
No.
There are also allegations that President Trump was the victim of, quote, lawfare, and accusations that the Department of Justice lawyers who prosecuted Donald Trump used, quote, fabricated indictments and rigged show trials. Did you, Mr. Smith, or the men and women working on your team work to fabricate indictments or put on rigged show trials?
No, we secured indictments from grand juries, and we were prepared to prove our case in court beyond a reasonable doubt.
Did you use your appointment as special counsel to conduct a politically motivated witch hunt, scam investigation, and prosecution of Donald Trump?
I did not. We followed the facts. We followed the law. Where that led us was to an indictment of an unprecedented criminal scheme to block the peaceful transfer of power.
And those indictments have been dismissed. Can they be rebrought or resurrected after this?
Yeah,
Trump
dismissed
leaves
with
office?
prejudice, without
They
prejudice.
were dismissed without prejudice.
So they can be refiled. And he can be prosecuted after he leaves office. Is that correct?
I'm not going to speak to that. I can only speak to what we did, which was dismiss the case without prejudice.
All right. The website of the Trump White House on the anniversary of January 6th is nothing more than a pack of lies. It proves that Donald Trump is hell-bent on misusing taxpayer dollars in a feeble attempt to rewrite his criminal history and the history of what happened on January
Poor
6th,
Jim Jordan.
2021. And with that, I yield back. But I would like to, Mr. Chairman, offer for the record unanimous consent. A statement from Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency released on November 12th, 2020 that states the November 3rd election was the most secure in American history.
Objection.
Also, testimony from,
Jim Jordan.
I would like to request unanimous consent to enter into the record
You are a
the September 24th,
candy ass
2020 testimony of Trump's
pussycat.
former FBI Director Chris Wray, who told Senate Homeland Security, the Homeland Security Committee of the Senate, that the FBI had, quote, not seen or historically had any kind of coordinated national voter fraud effort in a major election.
Objection.
And last but not least, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record this article titled "Disputing Trump, Barr Says No Widespread Election Fraud."
Without objection. The gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Texas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, on
Who
November
is
18th,
this?
2022, A.G. Garland appointed you
Is that
as special
Crenshaw?
counsel. Can you tell me about your swearing in or the oath of office that you took after that?
I don't recall the specifics of it. I know I was sworn in. I don't recall the specifics of how that was done.
You don't remember who swore
Oh
you
no.
in?
I don't.
Would you agree that taking the oath of office is a legal requirement for the job that you had?
I have taken oaths of office regularly. I haven't researched whether it's required or not, but I have done that, I think, in every government case I've done.
Can you hear the wind? Holy shit, that's loud.
Earlier today were atypical, irregular, no proper procedure. Yet in your opening statement, you said that we followed Justice Department policies, and I would assume you meant the law as well. It strikes me as odd that you don't remember who swore you in, how you were sworn in. It's pretty significant. We all get sworn in here, and I remember every day. You don't remember who swore you in.
I don't remember the details of it as I sit here today.
But you did take the oath of office before you got rolling.
I think my recollection is it was when I was appointed.
It was when. It strikes me as odd that Attorney General Garland had you retake the oath of office on the 14th of September of the following year. Why did he make you do that?
As I sit here right now, I do not recall. I know that there is the oath of office that I signed. I believe it was on the 18th, the day that I was appointed. And I know the department had me do a second one I don't know the particulars of why they asked me to do it again, but I know
You signed it on the 20th of November 22nd, November 2022, but there was no witness, which, I mean, you have to agree it's a little odd. If there's no witness saying that you took the oath of office, it would maybe make someone like me question whether or not you were legitimately doing the job until you finally took the oath of office. It sounds like the Attorney General had the same question and thought, oh shit, we got to have him sign this on the 14th day of September of the following year. So why did you take the oath of office again on the 14th of September of the following year when you say you took the office in November of 2022? Why'd you need to do it twice?
my recollection is that I took the oath of office, as you said, it was the 18th or the 20th, and felt I was under the oath of office. I believe, if you have it in front of you, I think I signed an oath.
You signed it, but there was no witness. There was supposed to be either notarized or a witness, and apparently Attorney General Garland thought it was significant enough to have you do another oath 11 months later. That's strange, right?
I don't know why they asked me to sign it again. I don't recall ever discussing this issue with Attorney General Garland.
Well, that is just wild to me. I'd like to yield the balance of my time to Mr. Jordan.
Well, which one was the official one? Which one counted? I think that's what the gentleman's asking.
I understood myself to have taken the oath of office when I assumed the job.
How much money did you? Okay, how much money did you spend in the investigating President Trump? How much money did your office spend?
I do not recall as I sit here now, but I know that pursuant to, I believe it's the special counsel regulations, reports were issued each 6 months detailing how much.
We gathered at $35 million. And what I want to know is how much of that $35 million of taxpayer money did you give to confidential human sources?
Oh.
We know you gave $20,000 to someone. It just got reported last week. How much more money did you pay confidential people we don't know about, with American tax money going after the guy we elected president?
My recollection regards the $20,000, which was not a payment from me. It was me approving a payment by the FBI to a confidential human source who was reviewing video and photographic.
Who's the source?
You don't have to
I
reveal
do
that.
not know the identity of the source.
How many other payments went to this source or other sources?
As I sit here, I do not know the answer to that question. My role as special counsel,
$35 million, and you're giving money to people the country doesn't know who they are, and you're giving their hard-earned money to these folks? The main question I have, too, with this is, why'd you have to do it? You subpoenaed bank records from the RNC, phone records from members of Congress. You got subpoenas for bank records for people sitting right there in the front row. Why did you have to pay people for information when you could subpoena them and get it?
Time has expired.
Time's expired. You can answer the question. Country'd like to know why you had to do it.
My recollection and understanding
Jim Jordan, you're such a prick.
$20,000 that I approved was for a confidential human source to assist in the review of video and photographic evidence showing people who were attacking the Capitol, attacking police officers, obstructing the proceeding, and seeing if we could prove that some of those people had come directly.
That wasn't my question, but my time has expired.
Oh.
Mr. Smith, I want you to have the utmost confidence in what you did. You did everything right. Harry Dunn, Danny Hodges, Sergeant Cannell, Mike Fanone, they did everything right. These guys, my Republican colleagues, are a joke. They're wrong. History will harshly judge them, so I want you to lean in today. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You did everything right, sir. And I am these guys are so lucky they're not under oath, because they would have to tell you what they really think of Trump. They call him crooked. They call him cruel. They call him a scumbag. I've heard you all say it. You're lucky you're not under Trump, but when the lights go on and the cameras are on, you're tiny, You're small. You shrink. Everyone remembers Matt Gaetz coming over here after a committee hearing and he laughed at how stupid he thought Trump was. This is all a show. And Mr. Smith, you're just the latest act that they brought in. But they can't erase what happened on January 6th because we saw it with our own eyes. Mr. Smith, after the mainstream media called the race for Biden about a week after the election, did Donald Trump concede the election?
He did not.
The next month, the Electoral College met in every state and voted Biden as the winner. Did Donald Trump concede then?
He did not.
Shortly after that, the last court case that Donald Trump brought was thrown out. Did he concede then?
No.
Is it your judgment then that only Donald Trump could have convened the mob in the size that it was assembled on January 6th?
Our assessment of the evidence is that he is the person most responsible for what happened on January 6th. He caused what happened. It was foreseeable to him. And then when it happened, he tried to exploit it in furtherance of the conspiracy.
And you actually obtained indictments from a grand jury, right? You went to a grand jury and did something that the Trump administration has not been able to do as they go after their enemies. Their cases are being thrown out. You obtained criminal indictments against the president. Is that right?
That's correct.
Mr. Smith, do you know who Edward Loya is?
Loya.
Sorry?
Edward Loya, L-O-Y-A?
I believe Mr. Loya worked at the public integrity section.
Did you know that he said of you, when it comes to investigating allegations of sophisticated federal criminal matters, Jack Smith is the gold standard? Do you know who Mr. James McGovern is?
Yes, he was a prosecutor I worked with in New York.
Did you know that he said of you, I have no idea what Mr. Smith's political beliefs are because he's completely apolitical? So are you a registered independent?
I have no partisan loyalties. I don't know if I'm registered as independent or not registered at all.
Are you glad you accepted Attorney General Garland's request to be a special prosecutor, even though you've been dragged over political barbed wire and your family's been subjected to death threats?
I don't regret it.
Do you remember where you were on September 11th?
I do.
What did you think of that day?
I was in Brooklyn when that happened. I was at the command center that night. I worked on that investigation. I remember pretty clearly.
Do you remember where you were on January 6th?
Hey.
On January 6th.
Oh, fuck. I have 40 minutes.
The State Department seconded to a war crime tribunal.
What did you think as you watched on television what happened at the Capitol that day?
To be honest with you, I don't recall if I saw it that day or a later day because of the time period.
What did you think when you saw it?
I was shocked. I was shocked by it. I obviously, being in Europe and not following things as closely, I was not, frankly, up to speed on the events leading up to it.
What shocked you about it?
I just never seen anything like that happen in our country.
Mr. Smith, I don't know if I'll ever have the honor to talk to you again. If I don't, please know that I and my colleagues on the Democratic side, and even my Republican colleagues when they speak privately, have nothing but respect and appreciation for what you tried to do and how you did it. You, unlike many here, are a man of honor. And I yield back.
God damn it.
Gentleman yields back. The gentleman from Alabama is recognized.
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Who's that?
Smith, you appear before this committee today not as a neutral observer of the law, but at one point you were one of the most powerful prosecutors in the federal system, armed with enormous discretion, minimal oversight, and a mandate that goes to the very heart of our constitutional order. You brought charges during an active election cycle. You relied on legal theories that had never before been tested in context. And you did so while disregarding long-standing Department of Justice policies designed to prevent prosecutors from influencing elections. Mr. Smith, you claimed in your investigation you developed proof beyond a reasonable doubt that President Trump engaged in a criminal scheme to overturn the results in the 2020 election and to prevent lawful transfer of power. However, a few weeks ago in Georgia, Fulton County Election board officials stated that 315,000 ballots were certified without required signatures on the tabulator tapes for poll workers. These signatures were required by the Georgia statute. If not counted, this could have turned the state of Georgia red, and I won't doubt there were similar schemes in many other states. You were illegally appointed to serve as special counsel since you were not confirmed by advance and consent Senate, and stated as stated in the appointments clause.
That's
You
cool.
also
I
issued
like
an
that.
indictment against
Okay.
then President Biden's most formidable political opponent. The candidate was President Trump, and you issued a gag
President
order
Trump.
for President Trump during a 2024 election cycle. This was a major violation of President Trump's
Oh, the gag order. God damn.
to outright censor the leading political candidate. These actions
Would
were
not
done in
affect
short
his
of election
campaign if he
interference.
wasn't allowed to speak
Nine
ill of
senators,
Jack
including Senator
Smith's
Tuberville from my
staff.
state of Alabama, and multiple Republican members of the House of Representatives had their phones subpoenaed.
Oh, the
For
phone
record
subpoena.
Some you seized their phones. Even
Yeah.
then, Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, one of the highest-ranking Republicans in the country, had his phone records subpoenaed, all for political gain. These subpoenas clearly violated the speech and debate clause. As John Keller of the DOJ's Public Integrity section addressed this issue in an email dated May
Oh, they claim it
17,
violated it, but they
2023,
never took it to court.
DC Circuit President
Should have taken it to court.
stated that the speech
No,
and
they
debate
get to
clause
grandstand
requires
about it
this,
instead.
are compelled
Ooh.
borrow compelled disclosure
Violates
is
our speech and
absolute.
debate clause, so we won't
These
fight it
instances
in
are
court,
not
but
only
we'll
the tip of the
use our
iceberg
speech and
about
debate
your
clause to
team's
talk
labor
about how we
disregard
were
of the
victims.
Constitution. Mr. Smith, your actions have changed and damaged confidence in our justice system. Today, this committee will determine whether that damage was a result of reckless judgment, political bias, or deliberate misuse of authority. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield you the balance of my time for questions.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. I want to go back to that email. If we could put that up, this email that Mr. Gill highlighted a few minutes ago. This is the justification from the public integrity section. If you look at the bottom, John Keller, public integrity section, for going and getting the phone records, toll records of members of Congress. And there's a couple things I want to highlight. That first highlighted area, there is some litigation risk. So they admit there's some concern here. And they send this to the copy to Jack Smith's team. And then you go down later, as Mr. Gill pointed out, the case law is clear. A legislator may intervene and oppose such use. So the risk is real. But here's the deal. There was really no risk because we weren't going to know. They weren't going to tell us. They made sure they didn't tell us because they went to the judge and got a gag order. And look at the last sentence. The last sentence. Low likelihood that any of the members listed below would be charged. But they're not going to know because we're not going to charge any of these guys. They didn't do anything wrong. And so therefore the litigation risk should be minimal. They're not going to be charged. We're not going to go after them. The litigation risk is minimal. And it's minimal because, frankly, it's non-existent because they're not going to know. And we're going to make sure they don't know because we're not even going to tell the judge who we're getting the gag orders on. And yet, Mr. Smith thought that was A-okay. That was just fine. That was in the letter and the spirit of the Constitution. I find that hard to believe. And you know why? You know why everyone knows it's wrong? Because the public integrity section at the Justice Department has now changed its policy.
It's now changed its policy. They changed all their policy to try and make this like,
We got to get the president.
we're going to change it now and hope that people don't realize we don't have a fucking time machine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ah,
Mr. Chairman,
annoying.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent request.
Gentleman from New York's recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a transcript of the voicemail that President Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, left Senator Tuberville on January 6th, in which he states, "I'm calling you because I want to discuss with you how they're trying to rush this hearing and how we need you, our Republican friends, to try to just slow it down so we can get these legislatures to get more information."
Without objection. Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The House Judiciary Committee is responsible.
Oh, Ted Lieu, I called him too.
Rule of law. Unfortunately, the chairman of this committee ignored a bipartisan
Ha ha ha! Eat the dick, Jim Jordan.
His actions this committee and other congressional committees to get witnesses and testimony and damage the rule of law. Now, before I ask questions of Mr. Smith, I just want to make a simple observation. How scared are Republicans of talking about the Epstein files? They're so scared that they literally are calling Jack Smith, the distinguished federal prosecutor who secured multiple indictments against Donald Trump with multiple felony counts. Republicans would rather talk about the criminality of Donald Trump in trying to steal an election and trying to stop the peaceful transfer of power, and the criminality of Donald Trump in stealing classified documents obstructing justice, than about Donald Trump's associations with Jeffrey Epstein and his pedophilia raid. I demand this committee, this chairman, and Republicans to call an immediate hearing asking why the Department of Justice is refusing to release 99% of the Epstein files and why the DOJ is violating law right now. I have questions, Mr. Smith, for you, and thank you for being here today. My questions center on
Ted Lieu, you just wasted your
lack of
time.
interactions between
Lou.
the Biden administration and yourself. Did President Biden or anyone in the Biden White House ever direct you to seek retribution against anyone perceived to be Biden's political opponent? No. Did the Biden administration or President Biden or anyone in the White House ever write a social media post directing you to seek retribution against any particular individual? No. Did President Biden or anyone else in the Biden White House ever direct you to take any prosecutorial step whatsoever? No. Okay. Donald Trump made it clear he wanted to seek retribution against New York Attorney General Tish James. Trump relentlessly attacked her, saying, quote, she should be prosecuted and, quote, arrested and punished because she dared to hold Trump accountable for Trump's fraud in New York. Trump weaponized the Department of Justice, and the Trump DOJ opened a sham investigation into her alleged mortgage fraud. We know it's a sham investigation because they couldn't even get twice grand juries to secure indictments against her. When interim U.S. Attorney Eric Siebert, who Donald Trump himself appointed, spent 5 months investigating Tish James, he concluded there was not enough evidence to go forward. And what did Trump do? He fired his own U.S. attorney. Mr. Smith, did President Biden or anyone else in the Biden White House ever tell you that Donald Trump should be, quote, arrested and punished? No. Did President Biden or anyone else in the Biden White House ever threaten to fire you based on any action you took or did not take? No. Donald Trump also directed the Trump DOJ to open investigations into his own appointees who refused to do his bidding. His DOJ recently investigated Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell because Powell won't cede to Trump's bullying on interest rates. Did President Biden or anyone else in the Biden White House ever direct you to go after any Biden appointee? No. Okay. I just want to say a little bit about what the Republicans have brought up about these phone toll records. Do you believe the Speaker of the House is above the law? No, I don't believe anybody should be above the law. Right. And U.S. senators are not above the law, correct? No. And members of Congress are not above the law, right? No. Yeah, that's right, because we're not. And what Republicans are trying to argue is somehow, if you're doing an investigation, you can't do stuff to senators or members of Congress. Get out of here. We're just under law like everybody else. And by the way, the speech and debate clause only applies to legislative acts, communications with legislative acts. Stealing a frickin' election, trying to do so, is not a legislative act.
Yay, good job, Ted Lieu.
I don't know what the heck they're talking about. And this is so stupid. I'm a former prosecutor. You never in an investigation go and try to get someone's toll records or phone records and then tell them, hey, dude, we're about to get your phone records. Of course you wouldn't tell them. What the Republicans are saying today is just idiotic. I am so pleased you're here on national TV telling the American people that Trump was indicted. He was indicted lawfully, and multiple grand juries secured those indictments. Thank you for your service, and history will look upon you well. You're back.
Young lady from Florida is recognized for 5 minutes.
Kat Kamak?
Mr. Smith,
No. Is
You
it?
have a long tenure at the Department
Nope.
of Justice.
That's I don't know who that
Would
is.
you agree with the statement that DOJ charging policies require prosecutors to bring charges only where the admissible evidence is expected to be sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction?
Was that
Is that right?
Laura Lee? Yeah.
That is correct. That's from the federal principles. of
I'll be right back.
And in this case,
Here's
in this case you brought
robot.
against President Trump, one of the charges you pursued was under Title 18, Section 371, which requires an agreement to interfere with the lawful function of the United States through deceit or dishonesty that the defendant knowingly and intentionally joined in an overt act. And what I'd like to ask you about is this. So you would agree that Section 371 requires dishonesty or deceit and also proof that a criminal defendant acted knowingly and intentionally. Is that right?
I believe that's correct. It requires knowing deceit targeted a lawful government function.
So you would then also agree, would you not, that opinion, disagreement, or even mistake is insufficient to satisfy the burden of criminal intent set forth in that statute?
A mistake certainly would. We needed to prove and intended to prove at trial that the false statements that Donald Trump made were knowingly false.
That they were false and that it was done knowingly. So even under your theory of the case, even if we took your facts as true, you still would have been required to prove that the president said something false and that he or did it knowingly. So going on to your next charge, let's talk about obstruction.
I mean, that was
There too, that charge requires of wrongful
cold in
intent,
here.
does it not?
That's
correct.
So if a defendant there actually believes a factual claim is true, that would mean he could not be convicted of that charge. Isn't that right?
Well,
Not correctly convicted.
The defendant for that charge would have to behave corruptly, and corruptly could include seeking an unlawful benefit, seeking a benefit to benefit themselves. In this case, to stay in office when they had in fact not won the elections.
But there too, there's a requirement of intent that this conduct must be knowing and intentional. Isn't that right?
There is an intent requirement. Yes.
And didn't you also acknowledge in your deposition that the president was receiving information from multiple advisors? Giuliani, Eastman, Clark, Powell. And in your deposition, you said he was almost just regurgitating what they told him. Isn't that right?
I don't believe I said he was regurgitating what they told him. I think what I said is that he was making knowingly false claims, that he was believing anything that would keep him in office, and he was rejecting it.
You would agree that those people, or some people,
Oh gosh,
were
this
giving
one's
the
small.
president conflicting advice at that time. Would you not?
You're correct in that his original campaign staff told him he had lost. He fired them and brought in people who would.
But criminal liability under the statutes you used in your indictment,
Oh, this is that L. Ron Hubbard nuclear physicist shit.
not simply the undermining of democratic norms or expressing an opinion with which you do not agree.
Okay,
So,
so
is it
here
not
we go.
correct, sir, that here you charged two intent-based crimes without any direct proof whatsoever that the conduct charged was knowing, intentional, or that you were going to have an adequate basis to sustain a conviction at trial?
I felt we had proof beyond a reasonable doubt. I felt that that proof included direct testimony from a number of witnesses to prove the knowing falsity of his claims.
Despite the fact that in your own deposition you acknowledge the existence of conflicting advice. If this defendant or anyone,
I think he said that. He explained
Donald J.
that.
Trump, Mr. Smith, I find it hard to believe that we would be sitting here today having a hearing about an indictment that was returned, knowing that the elements of the offenses could not be demonstrated.
Dumb
Now,
shit.
let's talk about this. I assume you're also familiar with the Department of Justice policy that prohibits prosecutors from selecting the timing of investigative or prosecutorial actions for the purpose of affecting any election.
Yes, I am. That's the election year sensitivities policy, and we followed it in all respects. The public integrity section who administers that policy concurred that we followed it in all respects.
Mr. Chairman, my time has expired.
Gentlelady yields back. The chair recognizes the ranking member for UC.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman. This is from John Dowd. I was Donald Trump's lawyer. Jack Smith should be celebrated, not vilified. December 16th, 2025, last month.
Objection.
I have asked unanimous consent to enter the record a criminal complaint filed by the Trump Department of Justice on December 13, 2025, detailing how Kash Patel and the FBI used a confidential human source and an undercover FBI agent to investigate a bomb threat in Los Angeles. And then finally,
nice.
This is an article published by The Verge on October 19, 2023, titled Peter Thiel was reportedly an FBI informant, which reports that Peter Thiel served as a confidential human source for the FBI.
Without objection, the gentleman from Arizona is recognized for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First one is from MSN.com. Biden's FBI paid anti-Trump sedition hunters as informants in J6 Arctic Frost probes.
Without objection.
Jack Smith team approved $20,000 payment to informant to snitch on Trump during Arctic Frost probe.
Without objection.
AT&T turned Kevin McCarthy's cell phone records over to Jack Smith.
Without objection.
Biden's legal team met with Jack Smith aide before Trump indictment.
Without objection.
Jack Smith deposition gives insight into failed effort to hold Trump accountable.
Without objection.
Trump special counsel Jack Smith was involved in Lois Lerner IRS scandal.
Without objection.
Special counsel Jack Smith's mixed history pursuing high-profile politicians.
Without objection.
And FBI resisted opening probe into Trump's role on January 6th.
Without objection, the gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
It's our turn. You yield your time.
lost track after all those unanimous consent requests. Gentlelady from Washington is recognized, and then the gentleman from North Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Smith, thank you for coming here today. Your willingness to speak directly to us and to the American people about your
I remember seeing her
investigation
crawl. I'm going to sign out of here. Thank you.
courageous, and it's patriotic. It's high time that the American people hear directly from you about the results
I remember seeing you, Mr. Paul, crawl
Donald
on the
Trump
ground
for his criminal
because your
actions
co-workers
leading up to and the day of January 6th,
caused this
2021.
shit.
The facts, according to your report, are simple. Without a single piece of evidence, Trump sowed doubt about the 2020 election results and urged his followers to, quote, walk down to the Capitol and fight like hell on January 6th. And that's exactly what they did. Thousands of insurrectionists violently tried to stop Congress from certifying the 2020 election and doing our duty. And they assaulted law enforcement officers, some of whom are sitting right here in the chamber with us. I was trapped in the House gallery with a small number of members that day, and I will never forget the pounding on the doors and the insurrectionists threatening to kill us right outside. My Republican colleagues keep trying to rewrite history. They claim that somehow Trump's words and actions
Good
did
for
not
you,
really
Giant Paul.
rise to the level of criminal activity, that he did not directly cause violence at the Capitol. And so I want to set that record straight with you right now. First of all, you successfully secured indictments against Donald Trump in 2 major federal cases: election interference in the 2020 election and mishandling of classified documents after leaving office. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've been a federal prosecutor for nearly 30 years. You led this investigation, combing through hundreds of thousands of documents, photos, videos, and communication. Did your investigation find that Donald Trump attempted to manufacture fraudulent state slates of presidential electors in 7 states that he lost?
Yes.
Did he pressure state officials to ignore true vote counts in those states?
Yes.
Did he spread lies and conspiracies to his followers to make them believe that the election had been illegally rigged against him?
Yes.
Did he pressure DOJ officials to stop the certification of the election?
Don't stop, Giant Paul.
Did he pressure his own vice president, Mike Pence, to stop the certification against the oath of office that he had sworn to the Constitution?
He did.
And when all of this didn't work, did he, Donald Trump, motivate and inspire an angry mob to the U.S. Capitol to stop the certification?
Our proof showed that he caused what happened on January 6th, that it was foreseeable, and that he exploited that violence.
Did Donald Trump know that his allegations of election fraud were lies when he spread them?
Our proof was that he did, and we intended to prove that at trial.
In fact, as the quotes from your report behind me show, he even privately admitted that he lost the election, correct?
Do that fucking guy.
He said, quote, "It doesn't matter if you won or lost the election, you have to fight like hell." And he said, "Can you believe I lost to this effing guy?" During your closed-door deposition last month, you and I had an exchange about the impact on our democracy, the toll on our democracy for not holding a president accountable for trying to steal an election. Do you remember that exchange?
I do.
I want to return to it because I think what you said in the closed-door deposition is important for the American people to hear right here in your public testimony. How would you describe the toll on our democracy if we do not hold a president accountable for attempting to steal an election?
My belief is that if we do not hold the most powerful people in our society to the same standards of the rule of law, it can be catastrophic because if they don't have to follow the law, it's very easy to understand why people would think they don't have to follow the law as well. And so I think the law should be applied equally to everyone.
And what do you think the toll is for future elections and future presidents who try to steal an election?
I think if we don't hold people to account when they commit crimes, it sends a message that those crimes are okay, that our society accepts that. I believe that if we don't call people to account when they commit crimes in this context, it can endanger our election process.
Hello.
It can endanger election workers and ultimately our democracy. The attack on this Capitol on January 6th was, and the Court of Appeals in Washington, D.C. said this, it was an attack on the structure of our democracy.
And we could experience much worse results down the road if this happens again. I thank you for your work, for your courage, and for your patriotism, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized.
Mr. Smith, just briefly, if there was no mob on January 6th that attacked the Capitol, we would not be here today, would we?
I can't speak to hypotheticals. The case I investigated involved a mob of supporters of Donald Trump's supporters.
Sure, I understand that. But had there not been a mob that rushed the Capitol, if they had just stayed in the original speech, if they had obeyed the instruction, go peacefully and patriotically, make your voices heard, we would not be here. Isn't that correct?
Well, in that case, Donald Trump wouldn't have done many of the things.
I'm just saying, no. They had gone peacefully and patriotically, we would not have had a special prosecutor. President Trump would not have been indicted. There would not have been, quote, the attack on the foundations of our democracy, correct?
That's a hypothetical, and I think it's a counterfactual hypothetical.
Well, and second point, in regards to what we just heard from my colleague from Washington, I think it's noteworthy that the vice president, despite the enormous toll that he has taken in these events, was against charging the president criminally in this case. But in regards to my own experience, Mr. Smith, I've charged many conspiracies. There's obviously a lot of benefit to that charge. It's a useful tool for fact-finding, scrutinizing evidence, figuring out exactly what happened, trying to form charges, trying to prove charges, trying to solidify the evidence. And in your case, sir, you've detailed, number one, the unprecedented criminal scheme, your words, not mine. In the press conference, you said there was an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy. Do you remember saying that?
I believe so, yes.
And in regards to your investigative authority, it was quite broad. We've already established that you had millions of dollars at your disposal. You had teams of lawyers. You had total subpoena power. You used campaign officials as witnesses. You subpoenaed millions of documents. You had civilian witnesses. You had political leaders. You had campaign officials that worked with the president, folks who were in the room.
North
And
Carolina.
after all of this, sir, you charged a conspiracy, and notably absent, there was no insurrection charged. There was no seditious conspiracy charged. And there was only one defendant, correct? Donald Trump.
That is correct.
Despite 6 co-conspirators identified in the indictment, only one person was charged. Is that correct?
Yes.
Despite there being an unprecedented criminal scheme, you did not find it necessary to charge anybody else who was admittedly, by your own evidence, involved in a criminal conspiracy that amounted to an unprecedented assault on the seat of American democracy.
Yes, at the time of the conclusion of our work, my lawyers had believed that we did have proof to charge other people. I was in the process of making that determination when our work was concluded. But you are correct that the only person charged in this case was Donald Trump, who, in my estimation, was the person most culpable for the crimes charged.
Well, I understand your position, sir, but again, you started at the very top and only charged the top conspirator, in your opinion. You didn't charge anybody underneath him, correct?
Correct.
Despite that charge requirement, you would agree that a criminal conspiracy federally is a criminal agreement, correct?
Yes.
So by extension, people, under your theory, people besides the president were involved in the unprecedented assault on American democracy, but you didn't find it necessary to charge them criminally.
I had not yet charged anyone besides the president.
You decided not to charge anybody but Donald Trump in that indictment.
Consistent with the federal principles of prosecution, which emphasize the degree of someone's culpability in making a charging decision, Donald Trump is the person that was...
I understand that. I understand your position, but you made the decision to charge one person and nobody else, correct?
I made the decision to make the charges in this case.
In regards to the way that the case handled from there, sir, I just want to get this on the record. In regards to your press conference, politics played no role, correct?
That is correct.
The charges you brought, politics played no role, correct?
Correct.
The expedited trial date played no role. Politics played no role, correct?
I followed the facts and the law, the department policy.
The speedy trial request, there was no role in politics, correct?
That's correct. Supreme Court precedent emphasizes
And even your brief that the court found atypical, politics played no role.
Mr. Chairman, the time's expired.
Time the gentleman's expired. The gentlelady from Pennsylvania Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for being here today. I believe it's important for the American people to finally hear from you directly about your investigations that you and your office conducted with integrity.
Shit, I have to go very soon.
Without fear or favor, as is
Damn.
department policy. And as people do hear from you, I think they're going to better understand.
All right, so here so far we got blue, green, and red.
And seeking
We got a
discredit
tertiary
your
triad: red,
investigations so that they
violet,
can
blue,
help the
green, and
president
yellow.
avoid accountability for his crimes against the
No,
American
we don't have
people.
tertiary.
So I'd like to move on from some of these baseless conspiracy theories
Yellow,
we've been
green,
hearing
and blue, red,
focus on
violet,
your actual work
and
as special counsel.
blue, green.
In volume
Yeah.
1 of your report, you
Yeah,
concluded
it's
that
pretty.
when it became clear that Mr. Trump had lost the election and that lawful means of challenging the election results had failed, he resorted
yes.
to a series of criminal efforts to retain power. Chief among those criminal efforts was Mr. Trump's dissemination of demonstrably and often obviously false claims of election fraud in key states, claims that Donald Trump himself knew weren't true. In order to pressure officials to ignore vote tallies and submit fraudulent certificates of fake electors to Congress, he repeated these false claims and ultimately used them to direct an angry mob to attack the Capitol. So I represent Southeastern Pennsylvania, which was one of the states targeted by Mr. Trump's criminal efforts.
All right, so fixing that a little.
Being mindful of the clock, I wanted to try to explore 3 topics. First, the evidence that Trump made false claims of election fraud in Pennsylvania, knowing they were false. Second, the evidence concerning the submission of fake elector certificates from Pennsylvania to Congress. And third, why the evidence and witnesses concerning Trump's efforts in Pennsylvania were so compelling. So first up, in your report and deposition, you detailed the overwhelming evidence that Trump had lost Pennsylvania, and he knew it. Despite this, he and his co-conspirators continued to make false statements about that result to advance their criminal plan. Can you describe the evidence that these were false claims and they knew they were false, including statements by election officials, court cases, and conversations between Trump and his Republican allies in the state?
Sure. What springs to mind most immediately is I recall one particular claim that there were more votes than ballots that had been sent out. This was a claim that was obviously false because many even in the campaign knew that the reason for that discrepancy is we were talking about two different elections. One was the primary and one was the general election. My team interviewed Rudy Giuliani regarding that claim, and he admitted it was wrong. He admitted flat out that that was a mistake. And so that's one of several. With respect to witnesses in Pennsylvania, what springs to mind is the chair of the Republican Party, I believe, in Pennsylvania. This is relatively early, shortly after the election, had informed Donald Trump that the idea that fraud was the reason was not accurate. It was because of the counting of mail-in ballots, which was totally normal in this process. And again, this is someone who is a Republican who supported Donald Trump, wanted him to win. I submit he would have been a credible witness at trial.
He doesn't want to say he would
The
have been.
second part of this, in addition to making false claims about election results that they knew were false, and your deposition and report go into this in some detail, there was also this fraudulent elector plan where Trump and his co-conspirators solicited folks who had been planning to be Trump electors if he won and asking them to submit fake certificates to Congress. And I think what you found was pretty remarkable, including a former congressman who told the co-conspirators that this was illegal and it was an attempt to overturn the government. Is that right?
That's correct. That particular elector, who was signed up to be a legitimate elector had Donald Trump in fact won the election, was a former U.S. attorney and former member of this Congress.
I mean, the bottom line is that despite the facts and over objections from his allies, Trump still went
Somebody didn't silence the phone.
and lied about Pennsylvania's votes to direct his angry mob to attack the Capitol. So I just want to thank you for your work and your years of service to the country. And I would invite everyone to read your deposition and to read the report because it tells a very different story than what our colleagues do.
Mr. Chairman, I have a unanimous consent.
Still ladies recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I ask unanimous consent to enter into a record a speech by former Vice President Pence published on C-SPAN in June of 23, in which he calls the president's comments on January 6th reckless. Trump was wrong then, he's wrong now. Anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president, and anyone who asks someone else to put them over the Constitution should never be president.
Without objection. And the gentleman from Virginia is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Smith, you said several times in your deposition that you
Okay, I gotta
the
go.
facts and the law, your interpretation of the law
Poop.
would lead
All right,
to
so we are 3 hours in. Gotta charge my phone while I'm out and about. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you're from the future, thank you. If you're from the past watching this, I don't know how boned we are, but we're kind of boned. Yeah. Be safe. Chowski. In the stream, we're gonna save, yeah, and